Chapter 1008. After Han Fei returned to the academy, there were still thousands of people in the maze who hadn't given up. Of course, Han Fei didn't care about them. When he came to the back mountain, Lu Rinquang was making dumplings. Su Sanqian and Xing Yu were assisting him, while Yi Xian was causing trouble. This girl was probably the only talkative person the Thug Academy had recruited so far. At this moment, Yi Xian made a fish-shaped dumpling and ran to Zhang Xuanyu. "Darling, look, I made a little fish." Zhang Xuanyu's face darkened. "I told you not to call me darling." "Got it, darling." After a while, Yi Xian made another ball and pulled out some thorns. She ran to Zhang Xuanyu. "Darling, look, I made a ball fish." Lu Rinquang rolled his eyes. "Zhang Xuanyu, can you take this little clingy person away? She's ruining my flower." Zhang Xuanyu said angrily, "What does it have to do with me?" Zhou Yinling and Li Luoluo were also trying to make dumplings. They learned very quickly. Li Luoluo threw a colorful worm in from time to time. "Let's compete and see whose luck is better." Lu Rinquang threw all her dumplings to her side in disdain. "I hate bugs, and I hate eating bugs even more." Luo Xiaobai sat on the tree while Su Daiji was playing with the cube. Furthermore, she had already put together the fourth-order cube. At this moment, she was holding a third-order Rubik's Cube in one hand and a fourth-order Rubik's Cube in the other. As soon as Han Fei landed with Gu Qi, Yi Xian shouted, "Qi Qi, come and make dumplings." Gu Qi was surprised. "Huh? Oh. I'm coming." Su Daiji had already run to Han Fei and extended her hand. Han Fei looked at her. "Oh, she's done with the fourth order too." But he didn't panic. He was already prepared. From the 5th to the 6th, he had done a total of 10. Anyway, it was enough for Su Daiji to play with for a long time. Han Fei threw the 5th-order cube to Su Daiji. Su Daiji smiled sweetly, and then began to spin again. After sending Su Daiji away, Han Fei looked at Luo Xiaobai. "How is it?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. "When we arrived, the building was already empty. Yi Xian and the old man she spoke of have already escaped. They did not leave any traces behind." Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. "I should have known." Luo Xiaobai asked, "How about you? How about going to the Gu family?" Han Fei said casually, "I ran into a little trouble, but it's not a big problem." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "The academy's land has been taken back, and the students have been recruited. Your body tempering technique is probably enough for them to practice for a while. In addition to the cultivation methods in the library, their strength will probably improve very quickly in the next 3 months." Han Fei nodded. This was different from when they first met. Back then, although they had also grown very quickly, they did not have the conditions they had now. At that time, he didn't have any resources or weapons. There were enough cultivation techniques and battle techniques, but everyone focused on different things, so they didn't learn too much. As for Su Sanqian and the others, they had cultivation techniques, combat skills, and resources. However, they had to consider going to the trial ground. Han Fei asked, "Is there an arena on the Pure Sun Island?" Luo Xiaobai said in surprise, "You want them to fight in the arena now?" Han Fei shook his head. "It's still too early. We have to go to the 1,000-star testing ground first and snatch a few trial grounds. Otherwise, no matter how strong they are, it's useless." Luo Xiaobai nodded. "That's right. The 1,000-star testing ground is indeed imperative. We have to hurry. There is an arena on the Pure Sun Island, but it should be more difficult than when we were in Blue Sea Town. If they want to win 100 matches in a row there, their basic skills aren't enough. Also, who do you think should be the captain of the 5 of them?" Han Fei grinned. "This is something you should consider." Luo Xiaobai nodded and looked at everyone. "After this meal, cultivate. I want to conduct a comprehensive ability test on the 5 of you. When Su Sanqian and the others heard this, their expressions changed slightly. They thought to themselves, we can't be negligent. We have to work hard to unleash all our advantages. Han Fei said, from now on, without our permission, you are not allowed to break through. Especially Gu Qi. In order to make up for your potential, you have already broken through once. You have to be crushed to death. Before everyone catches up to you, you can't make another breakthrough. Gu Qi said in surprise, everyone. Gu Qi looked at Su Daiji, who was playing with the Rubik's Cube. This little girl was only a level 8 fisher and had never experienced spiritual awakening. How long would it take for her to catch up to him? However, thinking that Han Fei should have a lot of spirit awakening fluid on him, Gu Qi didn't say anything. She pondered. Since senior brother made such a rule, he must have his reasons. Han Fei looked at Su Daiji and said, Daiji, I'll give you 3 months. In 3 months, advance to an intermediate fishing master. Otherwise, there won't be any 6th grade and 7th grade Rubik's Cubes to play with in the future. Hearing this, Su Daiji immediately stopped and said anxiously, no. Su Daiji didn't like to talk, but when she heard that Han Fei wasn't going to let her play, she panicked. Han Fei said, so, you have to break through quickly. Li Luoluo immediately said, isn't it too fast? You've made her improve too much in the past 3 months, haven't you? Han Fei grinned. In order to prevent Su Daiji from improving too fast and unstable. Everyone, take 3 hours a day to suppress your realm to the same level as Daiji. 4 against 1, train her. At that time, everyone, including Yi Shiyan, was dumbfounded. 4 of us against her. She's the youngest, Su Daiji curled her lips. I don't like fighting. Han Fei didn't give Su Daiji a chance to escape. You have to fight me even if you don't like it. When you can last for half an hour under the hands of the 4 of them. Zhou Yinling said, is Daji's talent so high? Lu Rinquang said, Fei Fei, are you doubting her? Not doubting. Su Daiji must have a growing spiritual heritage. Her endurance, reaction speed, and IQ are all extremely high, but she has never used them herself. Besides, her performance on the spiritual heritage testing stone made the Su family mistakenly think that her aptitude was not good and she was just a little special. That's why we picked her up. Luo Xiaobai asked, do you think Daji will become the strongest among them? Han Fei counted carefully. Su Sanqian is a manipulator, Gu Qi is an armorist, Xing Yu is a spirit gatherer and a soul warrior, and Yi Shiyan is a hunter and a soul warrior. Then, Su Daiji will be a pure soul warrior, the strongest one. Everyone wasn't too sure about Han Fei's judgment. However, if Su Daiji finally chose to be a soul warrior, then this team would become a perfect combination again. Li Luoluo was interested. Then we have to make Yan Yan more inclined to be a hunter. I'll be responsible for this. Xing Yu being able to pass Han Fei's assessment meant that he was more talented as a spirit gatherer. So, there was no doubt about it. After a moment. At the dining table. Yi Shiyan said, darling, dumplings are so delicious. Eat more. Ha! What's this sour thing? Do we eat every day in school? This is too blissful. Yi Shiyan blabbered on. Han Fei said leisurely, Yi Shiyan, when it's time to eat, just eat properly. Don't babble. After Han Fei said that, Yi Shiyan's voice dropped by an octave and she rubbed against Zhang Xuanyu. Darling, let me feed you. Pfft. Han Fei almost spat out a mouthful of food. Damn it, I can't live like this anymore. After the meal. Below the library. Luo Xiaobai looked at everyone and pointed at Han Fei. Now, the 5 of you, use all your strength to attack Han Fei. Everyone was shocked. They weren't on the same level at all. How could they fight? There was a hint of slyness in Luo Xiaobai's eyes. Han Fei can only use the strength of a level 8 fisher. As for you, think of a way to last. 30 minutes. Su Sanqian and Xing Yu looked at each other. Isn't this too much? You want us to last 30 minutes with the strength of a level 8 fisher? Han Fei pulled a small branch from the spiritual plant wall and looked at them. Come on. Remember to go all out. Yi Xian was eager to try. She had never done such a fun thing before. Su Daiji put away the cube and thought for a moment before looking at Han Fei. No weapons. Han Fei smiled and said, What weapon do you want? Su Daiji sniffed. A brick. Han Fei, the corners of Han Fei's mouth twitched. He casually took out a fish bone and refined it into a fishbone brick before throwing it to Su Daiji. Xingyu said in a low voice, Remember, persevere. Try to attack first. San Qian, wander around the periphery. Don't get close. Luo Xiaobai shouted, Begin. Whoosh. 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 As soon as Luo Xiaobai said that, Guqi took the lead to attack. Mortal weapons poured out from the armor box. Xingyu shouted, San Qian. Su Sanqian, in the blink of an eye, the spider silk was like a steel rope. It didn't latch onto Han Fei. Instead, it first latched onto the ground around Han Fei, limiting his range of movement. Yi Xian disappeared with a whoosh. She was extremely fast. Han Fei glanced at it and found that one of the steel ropes moved. Immediately, he leaned back. In the wind, he grabbed Yi Xian's ankle with one hand. At this moment, Su Sanqian's spider silk wrapped around Han Fei. Han Fei pulled hard and blocked Yi Xian in front of him. As for Han Fei himself, he made a few strange movements, flipped, and dodged. Bam! At this moment, Su Daiji had somehow circled behind Han Fei with the brick in her hand. While she was attacking, she even shouted out loud. Han Fei tilted his head slightly and pushed his body back. With a shake of his shoulder, he pressed against Su Daiji's wrist. He flipped over and slapped Su Daiji. The latter staggered. However, she was quickly pulled back by the spider silk. Xingyu held his long rod and attacked from the side. He shouted, Yan Yan, don't attack forcefully. Hold the line first before attacking. Xingyu's voice was especially loud. Han Fei grinned. He did it on purpose. This guy is trying to confuse me. In fact, Yi Xian had already attacked her back. Han Fei twisted his body and placed one hand in the air. A gentle force easily deflected Yi Xian's body and sent her crashing into Xingyu. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. Han Fei seemed to only be defending. During this time, he glanced at Luo Xiaobai, who nodded. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up, and his body made a strange movement. With the help of the spider silk on the ground, he bent his body, making Su Daiji's brick hit nothing but air. Then, with the force of the spider silk, he bounced and hit Su Daiji, sending her flying. With his other hand, he flipped and grabbed Yi Xian's wrist. He snatched the dagger and shot at Xingyu, who was the slowest. Pfft! Xingyu was hit. Amidst the flying swords and sabers, Han Fei's posture was strange. He sent Guqi flying with a spiritual energy explosion. At the same time, he grabbed a spider silk that was shooting at him and used it to jump towards Su Sanqian. In just 5 seconds, all 5 of them landed on the ground with minor injuries. Han Fei said unhappily, Your cooperation is a mess. Chapter 1009. To Han Fei and the others, their growth had not only relied on their strength, but also their experience, skills, and reaction to battles. Further up, at the level of law enforcers, explorers, and even venerables, the battle depended on whose fist was bigger. Even for hidden fishers, there was an insurmountable gap between heavenly talents and ordinary hidden fishers. Therefore, in terms of combat ability, Han Fei was probably not weak even among law enforcers and explorers. In fact, he didn't even use the substitute combat technique that Ren Tianfei had given him. Just the 108 Desolate God body alone was enough to easily defeat the 5 of them. At this moment, everyone, including Yi Xian, was shocked. The only exception was Su Daiji. The girl was sitting on the ground, still holding the brick in her hand. She was a little confused. Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. As expected, the captain can only be chosen between Xing Yu and Su Sanqian. Xing Yu's inappropriate command during the battle is entirely because he has little experience and hasn't experienced many battles. However, at least he's calm. As the controller, Su Sanqian knows the situation the best, but I wonder if he has any advantage in guiding? Han Fei said, then test the two of them. Luo Xiaobai thought for a moment and suddenly took out 2 fish skin test papers. She handed them to Xing Yu and Su Sanqian respectively. Do this. Han Fei glanced at it and was stunned. Aren't these the test papers from the 36 towns assessment? When he saw the first question, Han Fei was stunned. How do I answer this question? Luo Xiaobai seemed to have taught me before, but I don't remember it. Immediately, Han Fei looked at Xing Yu and Su Sanqian sympathetically. Good luck. Yi Xian said, Senior sister, why don't I have it? Luo Xiaobai said, because you don't need it. Zhang Xuanyu said leisurely, if you really want to see it, you can just take a look. A moment later. Yi Xian came back with her tongue hanging out. It was too terrifying, too terrifying. Su Daiji didn't look at it at all. Gu Qi was standing between Su Sanqian and Xing Yu. She looked at one and the other, dumbfounded. She had a feeling that she couldn't answer any of these questions. When Su Sanqian and Xing Yu saw the question, they were stunned. They couldn't do the first question at all. Lu Renquang shivered and said with mixed feelings, isn't this too cruel? Li Luoluo sensed it and her face changed. Are we going to take this to the test? After a long silence, Zhou Yinling said, this seems rather difficult. Luo Xiaobai said casually, I just want to see their temperament. Apart from Su Sanqian and Xing Yu, the other 3 were taken away by Han Fei to temper their bodies. Yi Xian cried out, husband, this is so difficult. Zhang Xuanyu said with a dark face, call me senior brother, senior brother, senior brother. It's not difficult for everyone except for you. Do you still want me to help you? Yi Xian blushed. Pervert. Zhang Xuanyu. Han Fei patted Zhang Xuanyu's shoulder. This is an accident at most. There won't be a second one. Besides, isn't that what you like? Zhang Xuanyu gritted his teeth. What? That's what I like. I'm still a child. Bam! Han Fei kicked it and shouted, Senior Tree Spirit. He saw the tree spirit walk out of the spiritual plant wall. Master. Han Fei said, stay here and look after the house. Let's go out. Luo Xiaobai asked, all of them? Han Fei thought for a moment. It's the first time. Let's go and take a look. Li Luoluo asked, where are we going? The 1,000-star proving ground. Han Fei didn't ask for Zhou Yinling's opinion because the heavenly music book had already explained the answer. Zhou Yinling was the one who needed to move around the most. Luo Xiaobai looked at Su Sanqian and Xing Yu. After you're done, temper your bodies with everyone. Su Sanqian and Xing Yu hurriedly agreed. Han Fei and the others boarded the fishing boat and flew to the 1,000-star proving ground. Over the past few days, Han Fei had already read the information about the 1,000-star city. Furthermore, this time, Ku Shui had come. With the Su family's explorer paying attention and the tree spirit's clone staying in the school, there was no need to be afraid of explorer-level experts. The 1,000-star proving ground contained thousands of secret realms. Here, only a few places were open to the public. Most of the places were controlled by the aristocratic families and the 7 major sections. According to the difference in the secret realms, there were also 10 levels of difficulty. This division corresponded to the Fisher realm to the King realm, a total of 10 realms. The higher the difficulty level, the fewer secret realms there were. At present, 80% of the secret realms in the 1,000-star proving ground had been explored. This was the data from more than 30 years ago. Why was it 80%? This was because from the level of the law enforcer, which was the 7th level of difficulty, the secret realms were no longer easy to explore. It was said that high-level secret realms were usually more difficult than normal secret realms. The law enforcer mystic realm might very well cause the death of the explorer. The explorer mystic realm might also cause the death of a venerable. As for the venerable mystic realm, the information said that a venerable from the Choose sect had once entered and explored it, but he never came out. It could be seen that the higher the level of the 1,000-star proving ground, the more difficult it was. The reason why the Choose sect and the Chao family were known as the Chao in the south and the Chu in the north was that these two families had explored nearly 5 explorer mystic realms, which were level 8 secret realms. As for the venerable mystic realm and the king mystic realm, no one had successfully explored them. For countless years, not a single one had succeeded. No one who went in could come out alive. In Han Fei's hand, he was holding the sea-swallowing seashell that Old Bai gave him before he came. Because he always knew that this thing was troublesome, Han Fei kept it in Forge the Universe and didn't look at it. At this moment, this trouble had to be dealt with, so he glanced at it. As a result, he found that in the sea-swallowing seashell was a pile of fish skin maps and a pile of crystal-clear, yellow bead-like things. Each bead had a number on it. For example, Han Fei casually looked at a bead, which had 4 stars and the number 21 on it. If Han Fei understood correctly, the 4 stars corresponded to the secret realms of the Dangling Fisher realm. The number on it should be the serial number of the secret realms. After a quick glance at the fish skin map, Han Fei soon found the corresponding fish skin map. And on the map, it was a map of a secret realm. Obviously, this place had been explored. Therefore, someone from the former Thug Academy had drawn a map of this place. Han Fei couldn't help wondering. There were as many as 236 beads here. This meant that the former Thug Academy had robbed more than 200 secret realms in one breath, which was really amazing. Besides, Han Fei found 3 8-star beads on all these pillars. In other words, the Thug Academy had taken 3 explorer-level secret realms. Oh my god, isn't this comparable to the Chao family and the Chu sect? If the Thug Academy hadn't declined more than 30 years ago, its heritage would indeed be comparable to that of the Chao family and the Chu sect. Han Fei immediately thought of something. But now, he couldn't take them all out. Since these secret realms were extremely precious, it was possible that someone was coveting them. The beads of the explorer's secret realm were useless to Han Fei now. Even if they hadn't become a law enforcer yet, they might not be able to use the beads of law enforcers. However, with their strength, it shouldn't be difficult for them to take the hidden fisher-level secret realm. Seeing Han Fei's strange expression, Luo Xiaobai couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" Han Fei smiled. "Nothing. I'll show you a surprise later." Except for Luo Xiaobai and Zhou Yinling, the others all asked, "What surprise?" Han Fei chuckled and said, "Surprise? If I say it out loud, it won't be so surprising." "Okay, where are we flying to?" Ku Shui said, "The 1,000-star proving ground is on the Star River Island outside the 3 Holy Lands." The entire island was the 1,000-star proving ground. "We've only flown 1/3 of the way now. It's still early." Suddenly, Ku Shui added, "Young masters, a few senses scanned us just now. They should be explorer level." "Young masters, I'm afraid you have to be prepared." Han Fei said disdainfully, "Ignore them. If they could, they would have done it long ago. They wouldn't have waited until now. Let the juniors do it. I can beat them until their scalps go numb." Luo Xiaobai nodded slightly. "Indeed. As long as we don't break through to become a law enforcer, law enforcers won't be able to find trouble with us." Lu Renquang muttered, "Swallow them." Zhou Yinling looked at Han Fei. "Is this also considered an experience in the mortal world?" Han Fei smiled and said, "Of course it is. The scheming of the aristocratic families, the countless dirty tricks of those arrogant scions, are enough for you to broaden your horizons." "Oh." Zhou Yinling lowered her head slightly, thinking about something. About an hour later, everyone finally arrived. They saw it. It was a huge island emitting black mist. In the sky near this island, there were thousands of fishing boats floating in the air. On almost every fishing boat, there were people in twos and threes. When the wind god boat arrived, it attracted the attention of many people because of its cool appearance. Many people were puzzled. Whose family is this? But the thousand-star city was really too big. It could be called a large country. Every island was equivalent to a province with a population of hundreds of millions. Who could know all of them? The only advantage of cultivators was that their transportation speed was fast. For example, Han Fei and the others could fly a distance of 5,000 kilometers in half an hour. Therefore, in this sense, although the geographical range of the thousand-star city was vast, it was still acceptable. Han Fei and the others didn't stop for a moment. Ku Shui controlled the fishing boat and came directly to a very huge ground outside Star River Island that looked like a huge plain. Ku Shui said, "Young masters, this is the only open area of Star River Island. However, the young lords should already know the way to enter Star River Island. If you have star beads here, you can directly open the portal and enter the secret realm. If you don't have star beads, you have to walk into the galaxy through the dark mist and look for star beads in the galaxy. However, the galaxy is dangerous and star beads are scarce. Too many have been collected. If you can find it, I'm afraid it will be an extremely terrifying secret realm." Han Fei nodded. "It's okay. We have star beads." Everyone looked at Han Fei, wondering when they had such a thing. Chapter 10:10. From the outside, the Star River Island looked like a terrifying place filled with dense black qi. Light couldn't penetrate the fog, so it was like a huge and dark hole, devouring people's souls. At this moment, Han Fei grabbed a star bead and said, "Before coming, the president gave me a sea-swallowing seashell, which is full of these things, more than 200 of them." "Wow!" Everyone took a deep breath, and Zhang Xuanyu said, "You mean, our Thug Academy has more than 200 secret realms?" Lu Renkuang said in shock, "Then, are we rich?" Li Luoluo said in surprise, "I formally propose to join the Thug Academy and submit the application." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "Go away. Although there are many secret realms, they have all been explored." Luo Xiaobai said, "These secret realms haven't been to for a long time, right?" Zhou Yinling said, "Some of these secret realms on Star River Island have been explored repeatedly, so I'm afraid there are indeed no dangers. However, these secret realms have not been explored for many years, so there will definitely be dangers. As for resources, if they are explored a lot, I'm afraid there won't be many." Han Fei glanced at the fish skin maps and found that there were very few relic fish skin maps, only 18. Among them, there was only 1 for dangling fishers, 3 for suspense fishers, 6 for hidden fishers, 8 for law enforcers, and nothing else. Han Fei thought for a moment and said, "Don't worry about the relic ones for the time being. Let's enter one randomly and determine the danger." Han Fei had some guesses. Old Bai said he wanted to rebuild the Thug Academy, which was fine. He wanted to take disciples, which was also fine. However, Old Bai specifically reminded him that he wanted to come to the Thousand-Star Proving Ground not only to open up the original secret realms for new students to go to, maybe Old Bai also wanted to ask them to try walking in the galaxy and find a law enforcer's secret realm. After all, Han Fei and the others hadn't become law enforcers yet, and a law enforcer's secret realm wasn't something ordinary law enforcers could explore. Therefore, Old Bai said it euphemistically. Han Fei felt that he had guessed Old Bai's meaning. To be honest, he didn't intend to find a new law enforcer's secret realm now. At least, they couldn't do it before Tang Ji's wedding. Right now, the most reasonable situation was for the 6 of them to go and see what the law enforcer mystic realm left behind by the Thug Academy was like. He had to find a relic. That way, the level of danger would be greatly reduced. After a relic type of mystic realm was explored, the strange power of the relic might no longer be there. How much danger could there be? As for other types of mystic realms, that might not be the case. Han Fei was thinking that when all of them became law enforcers one day, they would go into the galaxy and try to find a new law enforcer secret realm. Han Fei was quite satisfied with his plan. After all, there were still 7 years until the old turtle of the Empyrean waterfall came out. In these 7 years, he had to break through to the peak of law enforcer and wait patiently for the leafless tree's branches to grow leaves. That would be the day he left the Thousand-Star City. However, according to the leafless tree, this period of time was between 5 to 8 years. The only problem was that the leaves had grown out, but the old turtle couldn't hold on much longer. Unfortunately, this kind of thing could only wait. During this period of waiting, they could only teach students, explore the 3 holy lands, or explore secret realms. Therefore, there was plenty of time. Just when Han Fei was about to ask how to activate this star bead, a voice suddenly came over. Are you from the Thug Academy? Well, 2 law enforcers and 4 peak-level hidden fishers. Why? Is this the full strength of the Thug Academy? Han Fei glanced over and saw 7 or 8 young people in their 20s walking towards him. Among them, there were only 2 peak-level hidden fishers and 6 law enforcers. Behind them followed a middle-aged man and an old man. Compared with Ku Shui, they were probably at the level of a peak-level law enforcer. Needless to say, this group of people was coming for them. Otherwise, how could they coincidentally find them when there were so many people in the sky and on the ground? Besides, the other party didn't hide it at all. They had long known that Han Fei and the others were from the Thug Academy. In the local dialect, they were here to pick a fight. Luo Xiaobai asked, "What's it to you?" Zhang Xuanyu chuckled. What? What do you mean? Tell me. Han Fei said contemptuously, if you're not from the 7 major sects, then you must be from the big families. Why did they send a bunch of good-for-nothings like you? Han Fei's words were as arrogant as ever. Arrogant, despotic, insufferably arrogant, and downright dandy, these were the basic principles of a sailor. It was the same as the people in the tavern who would pull out their weapons at the slightest disagreement. With old Han and the Thug Academy, the Thousand-Star families didn't dare to act rashly. This was a balance. As long as this balance wasn't broken, it didn't matter if Han Fei was lawless in the Thousand-Star City. Why would he care about some cannon fodder who came to pick a fight with him? As soon as Han Fei said this, the faces of several people opposite him changed, and their eyes immediately showed fierceness. The young man who spoke sneered. It seems that you are Han Fei. You are really as arrogant as the rumors say. Who do you think you are in the Thousand-Star City? Han Fei chuckled. Who do I think I am? I am something that can make you kneel on the ground and call me grandpa. Why don't you try me? The man shouted, Han Fei, you're courting death. Han Fei touched his chest and grimaced. Oh, I'm so scared. Come and challenge me if you can. How about a life and death battle? I've been to the south and the north, and I've fought with Blue Feather. Who the hell are you? Where did you come from? Puff. Li Luoluo laughed. What kind of words are these? However, looking at his rascally appearance, he really looked like a loafer in the village. No one was more like him. Lu Renquang took out a small dried fish, stuffed it into his mouth, and said, in terms of insulting people, these children of the big families are far inferior to Han Fei. Zhou Yinling watched this scene silently. Although she had seen this kind of provocative dialogue several times in the village, it felt a little strange to hear it from Han Fei. Before the young man on the opposite side spoke, the peak-level law enforcer behind him shouted, Han Fei, watch your words. If there's a next time, before he finished speaking, Han Fei interrupted him directly, shut up. Who the hell do you think you are? Do you have the right to speak here? Han Fei said domineeringly, don't talk nonsense with me. Not to mention that you can't beat me, do you think these 2 peak-level law enforcers dare to attack me? My father is a venerable. Who the hell dares to cripple me? Humph, even a group of iron-head fish can't compare to me. Han Fei had no shame at all when it came to bragging. This was the truth. He had just come here, so why didn't he put a Buddha in front of him and wait for others to beat him up? The man in the lead was livid with anger and clenched his fists. He had never met such a traitor before. Scolding people was as easy as spraying water. It was he who came to pick a fight. Why did it seem that he was the one who was picking a fight? In the crowd, a girl in a green dress snorted. Country bumpkin, unsightly. Han Fei said disdainfully, yes, we country bumpkins can't compare to you city people. We've been living a comfortable life since we were young. Even when you sleep, you have to call someone to warm the bed for you. Hey, girl, do you have this hobby? Han Fei. The woman shouted angrily and her momentum soared. She was so angry that she wanted to attack him directly. However, a young man in the crowd stood up, blocked the woman who was about to lose her temper, and looked at Han Fei. If my guess is right, you just want to provoke us so that we can accept your challenge to a life-and-death battle, right? Once someone accepts this challenge, you'll just want to slaughter them, kill the shrimps and startle the fish so that others won't dare to have any ideas about you. Han Fei touched his nose and said, congratulations, you're right. But, so what? Can you interfere by force or what? We haven't become law enforcers yet, and ordinary law enforcers are no match for us. You? Have you ever thought about yourself? Under Han Fei's ridicule, the young man said coldly, Han Fei, don't be too complacent. If you want a life-and-death battle, you might as well take a walk in the universe, if you dare. Han Fei grinned. I don't dare. I have a lot of secret realms in my hands. Do you want me to go to the universe to find secret realms with you? Was my head hit by an ironhead fish, or was your head hit by an ironhead fish? The young man was about to speak, but Han Fei interrupted him. Oh, by the way. Next time, please tell me your name if you want to talk to me. Remember, don't talk to me unless you're from a big family. I don't have time to talk to you. Someone sneered. Chu Jian, it seems that the Chu family has lost face. Han Fei glanced at the man who spoke. This man looked very thin, his face sickly, and his words were sarcastic. His words caused the leading young man's face to flush with embarrassment. Han Fei sighed leisurely and suddenly looked at the man. I'll remember you. What I hate the most are people like you who flatter me the most. Remember, if I meet you next time, I will kill you. The man's face was gloomy. I'm afraid you won't live until then. Han Fei glanced at them. Today, I don't have time to talk to you here. Next time you come back, remember to tell me your name. This time, forget it. There are too many people in the Thousand-Star City. I can't remember them at all. With that, Han Fei turned around, took out a star bead, and said, how do I use this? Zhou Yinling said, just inject spiritual energy. Without saying a word, Han Fei injected spiritual energy into it, leaving those who came to pick a fight with him to the side and let them be embarrassed. A dark blue oval teleportation array appeared in the air. Han Fei said, let's go in. Senior Ku Shui, will you go in? Ku Shui shook his head slightly. No, young Master Han Fei. After Han Fei and the others went in, the old law enforcer behind the young men suddenly said, Luo family, are you really going to offend the big families of the Thousand-Star City for the sake of the Thousand-Star City? Ku Shui chuckled. I've been serving my miss since she was a child. What does it have to do with the Luo family? Even if it has something to do with the Luo family, do you want to touch the Luo family? We can't beat you, but the Divine Manipulator family's ability to escape is unparalleled. Don't make the Luo family angry. Ku Shui leisurely walked to the edge of the Milky Way. There was a meadow there, suitable for resting. Chu Jian gritted his teeth and said, they won't be fooled. Someone replied, anyway, I'm just here to try. I don't expect them to be fooled. Just wait for the day they become law enforcers. The third update. Asking for votes. Tomorrow, the fourth update. There will be a big update in early May. I have my own things to deal with these days. End of this chapter. Chapter 10-11. In the ocean, there is a special scenery, which is sand. In human knowledge, sand was extremely common. It was formed by nature after hundreds and thousands of years, or even billions of years. The sand was extremely fine. If it was magnified 1,000 times, the world of sand and stone would be like a resplendent galaxy, a wondrous sight to behold. However, something as magical as sand could also cause unforeseen events if there was too much of it. At this moment, they came to a seabed sand bed. At least as soon as Han Fei appeared, his perception spread out within 500 kilometers, and all he saw was sand and stones. At the bottom of the sea, there was a waterfall called the Sand Waterfall. There was nothing special about it. There were no less than 10 sand waterfalls at the periphery of the scattered stars island. When water poured out of the Empyrean waterfall, sand poured out of the sand waterfalls. However, for an ordinary sand waterfall, the flow of water was not very large. The moment everyone got to know the environment, Zhou Yinling said, "Are we just going to ignore those people outside?" Han Fei explained, "Don't worry. Because of some sort of balance, they can't attack us now." They were no match for a hidden fisher. If it was a law enforcer, they wouldn't dare to make a move. This time, their goal is to provoke us and lure us into the universe. There might be traps set for us in the galaxy. Zhou Yinling's eyes turned cold. Shameless. Han Fei said casually, "We won't go to galaxy for the time being. We can't give them a chance. They shouldn't be able to control the 3 holy lands. When the time comes, we'll go directly to the 3 holy lands." Luo Xiaobai suggested, "Let's take a look at the environment first. There's something under the sand. There is a kind of withered yellow seaweed." Therefore, Luo Xiaobai immediately perceived something through the spiritual plants here. Han Fei also scanned the area and simply said, "There are a small number of mess-swallowing worms. However, they should be stronger than the mess-swallowing worms in the level 3 fishery. However, there aren't many mess-swallowing worms, and the shells are almost extinct. I'm afraid there are some large creatures here." Almost at the same time, they all asked, "Clam worms?" Luo Xiaobai shook her head. "It's different from the clam worms we know. Don't forget that the clam worm we saw last time lived in the undersea jungle. Although there's sand there, it's mostly made up of mud caves." Han Fei said, "Apart from the clam worms, there's also a very large fish." Zhou Yinling couldn't help but look at Han Fei. "I didn't sense anything. More than 300 kilometers away, there's a kind of stupid fish that grows vertically. Since this is a hidden fisher-level secret realm, it can't be so simple. Let's go to the sand and have a look." Any one of them had the strength to fight against a law enforcement officer. Of course, he wasn't afraid of a mere sea of sand. When the few of them stood on the sand, Zhang Xuanyu struck out with his spear and directly nailed an ugly mess-swallowing worm with a hard shell. Zhang Xuanyu said, "It's not strong, but its body structure is very strange, like sand." Han Fei took out his fishing rod and cast it out. The fishing rod pierced through the void and appeared more than 2,000 meters away. As Han Fei waved his hand, the mess-swallowing worms were pulled out. It was more than 30 meters long, but that didn't mean it was powerful. Even ordinary mess-swallowing worms were more than 30 meters long. When Han Fei pulled the mess-swallowing worm closer, he found that the particles on the shell of this worm were obvious, as if they were covered with a layer of crystal powder. At this moment, the long body of the mess-swallowing worm was twisting in the seawater, and some sand kept falling. In Han Fei's eyes, information emerged. Name a sandworm. Introduction. Sand-eating worms. Sandworms like to eat rare gemstone crystals in the gravel and strengthen their bodies by refining these gemstone crystals. They are often buried in the sand. An adult sandworm is up to 30 meters long and has sand thorns in its body. Its joints can be broken and its body can be disassembled. Growing up separately is the basic ability of sandworms to survive. Level 42. Quality rare. Contains spiritual energy greater than 1,618 points. Edible effect. Inedible. A collectible rare gem. Remarks. A kind of mess-swallowing worm. Lu Renquang frowned and said, "I hate bugs. Li Luoluo rushed over. I like bugs. Li Luoluo pinched the body of the sandworm with one hand and squeezed hard, directly crushing a scale of the sandworm. Li Luoluo said, the shell of this sandworm is very hard. I feel that it's almost as hard as an advanced spiritual weapon. Han Fei waved his knife casually and cut the sandworm into two halves. A hideous head quickly grew out of the severed body of the insect, and it started to escape. Clap! Clap! Luo Xiaobai buckled the two sandworms with vines and wondered, it can split into two creatures. Han Fei shrugged and said, it should be so. Let me cut it a few more times. Swish, swish, swish. In the blink of an eye, the mess-swallowing worm was cut into 8 pieces. To everyone's surprise, these 8 pieces were all alive, but their levels had become lower. Han Fei cut again and found that even if this sandworm was cut into 20 pieces, it was still alive. From 1 living creature to 20 living creatures. Boom! Han Fei smashed them with a punch, crushing all the 20 split sandworms. This time, these sandworms were really dead. At this time, Luo Xiaobai grabbed dozens of colorful stones. Li Luoluo reached out and grabbed all the stones in her hand. This color is really beautiful. Luo Xiaobai said, I think so. The mess-swallowing worms here can split infinitely. Unless they are completely crushed, they will split more and more. However, these mess-swallowing worms won't split on their own, or it's not time for them to split. Han Fei smiled and said, anyway, they are not strong. After splitting, they are even weaker. Luo Xiaobai shook her head and said, no, I feel the aura of a spiritual plant from the body of this mess-swallowing worm. As soon as Luo Xiaobai said that, with several loud bangs, 5 or 6 withered yellow vines suddenly emerged from the sand. Li Luoluo jumped out with a swish. In the air, a few colorful worms appeared, and Li Luoluo returned to Han Fei and the others. Li Luoluo turned the corner and asked, what's that? I didn't feel it just now. Luo Xiaobai explained, it's a kind of spiritual plant, a kind of purple bamboo spiritual plant that can have consciousness. At this moment, as soon as the spiritual plant came out, a large mass rushed towards Han Fei and the others. Han Fei slashed out casually, only to feel a huge resistance with a clink. Although a part of it was cut off, why was it so hard? Luo Xiaobai said, hook it. Han Fei said, no, let it hook us and go down to see its body. Luo Xiaobai was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Truly, the skilled were bold. One look and one could tell that this spirit plant was not an ordinary item. Han Fei wanted to let this spiritual plant drag them over. With Han Fei's reminder, no one stopped him. But when the vine tentacles were about to reach Luo Xiaobai, they suddenly began to quickly retract their tentacles. Luo Xiaobai's face changed slightly. It wants to run. Han Fei immediately flashed out, grabbed the vine, pressed down the law of gravity, and shouted, come on, pull it out. Zhou Yinling and Li Luoluo were dumbfounded. Is this the style of the Thug Academy? The spiritual plant had already hidden far away, but these people actually wanted to pull it out? At this moment, information appeared in Han Fei's eyes. Name a jade-eating demonic vine. Introduction. A strange creature in the sand sea. It likes jade essence, is extremely tough, has great strength, and can reach the power of 2 waves. It is good at whipping and binding. The jade-eating demonic vine produces jade essence and can be refined into divine weapons. Level of 58 Equality. Exotic. It contains spiritual energy greater than 19,998 points. Effect. Inedible. Collectible. A jade essence. When Han Fei saw this information, he was taken aback. The power of 2 waves. Does a level 58 creature have such great strength? No wonder it was a little difficult for him to pull it without using any secret method. Sure enough, the danger of the secret realm was higher. Imagine if an ordinary peak-level hidden fisher were here, the strength of 8 million kilograms would be considered excellent, but he would be no match for this jade-eating demonic vine. Even if he used a secret method, he would at most be on par with this thing. However, this thing had many tentacles. At this moment, dozens of vines slapped across the air. Han Fei sneered, and the invincible knife light slashed horizontally, directly breaking the vine whip. At this moment, Luo Xiaobai grabbed the vine with one hand, her eyes white, and tried to control it directly. In a moment, the 6 of them were pulled out of a huge sand pit without using any secret methods. And Luo Xiaobai's level was higher than this jade-eating demonic vine. At this moment, she had successfully controlled it and let it climb out by itself. After a while, everyone saw a huge rhizome like an old tree root appear on the sand surface. 50 or 60 large tentacles and countless small tentacles were swaying with the waves. Han Fei curled his lips and said, "That's it. Hee, there must be more than one here." Zhou Yinling said, "Look, this tree has been jade-like. Are those mess-swallowing worms raised by it?" Han Fei nodded. "Very likely. This means that in this sand sea, there is far more than one jade-eating demonic vine like this." Luo Xiaobai came back to herself and said, "There is indeed more than one spiritual plant. Through this spiritual plant, I can feel that in the central area of this sand sea, there is another largest one, which may have become a law enforcer." Zhang Xuanyu grinned. "So what? Can't the 6 of us defeat a law enforcer?" Luo Xiaobai thought for a moment and said, "No need. For us, it's not meaningful to defeat it." Han Fei nodded. "We are not short of resources now. A battle at this level is meaningless. Let's go out. Let's divide all the star beads. Deal with the dangers in some low-level secret realms, and then leave them to Xing Yu and the others. When we're done, let's go to the ruins." Luo Xiaobai couldn't help looking at Han Fei. "How many ruins are there?" Han Fei replied, 18. "Wow." Chapter 10-12. Zhang Xuanyu put his arm around Lu Renquang's shoulder and heaved a long sigh. "We're just here to make up the numbers." Lu Renquang reacted as usual. "That's great." With the experience of coming in, it was naturally easy to get out. Spiritual energy triggered the star bead, and the portal was opened. With a swish, they returned to the 1,000-star trial field. At this time, only 300 breaths of time had passed since they entered. If they hadn't stayed in the sea of sand for a while, they could have come out even earlier. They're out. In the distance, many people revealed surprised expressions. Just now, the collision between the disciples of the Thug Academy and the big clans didn't really break out, but it was impossible not to attract attention. In particular, some people from the 7 major sects were silently watching everything that had just happened. Of course, at this moment, they didn't come to find trouble with them. Chu Jian and the others also left, and no one came to attack. Ku Shui quickly came to the front of everyone. "Young masters, you're out already." Luo Xiaobai said casually, "These secret realms are of little use to us. There's no need to explore them." Han Fei took out more than 200 star beads and fish skin maps and said, "Okay, in that case, let's split them." For most secret realms, if the problem was not too big, then there was no need to worry about it. If he encountered a few troublesome creatures, he would casually deal with them. "Next, we will explore the ruins. Fatty, stay with Li Luoluo." Li Luoluo immediately said, "I'm a law enforcer. I can do it alone." Han Fei said with a smile, "You're just a temporary teacher of the Thug Academy, and the resources have been accumulated by the Thug Academy for a long time. Do you understand?" To put it bluntly, Han Fei only trusted Li Luoluo as a friend. In the world of cultivators, it was already very good to have a friendship. It was impossible for Li Luoluo to explore her secret realm alone. As the saying goes, one must always be on guard against others. As long as they weren't from the Thug Academy, he had to keep an eye on them. After all, it wasn't impossible for those aristocratic families to make deliberate arrangements in order to achieve certain goals. Why did he ask Lu Renquang to go with him? This guy didn't seem to be very strong, but when he unleashed his full power, he was second only to Han Fei. The Overlord's technique and violent war body superimposed, the legendary creature Deep Blue Roar possessed him, and the Sky Devourer technique could swallow insects. If there was really something wrong with Li Luoluo, Lu Renkuang could completely suppress her. Li Luoluo had no objection to this. Of course, she wouldn't ask why Zhou Yinling could explore alone. That was because Han Fei knew what Zhou Yinling was like. She didn't hesitate to give him the comfort and nature technique. This was already a great deal of trust. 3 days later. On the square of the 1,000-star proving ground, the group of people became famous. The name of the Thug Academy had almost spread around here. Because, Han Fei and the others would come out almost every hour, and they even came out several times. He then took out a new star bead and opened a new portal. This frequency shocked everyone. Were there so many secret realms of the Thug Academy? Someone sighed. What's the background of this Thug Academy? With so many secret realms under their control, they are comparable to the aristocratic families. Someone said indifferently, you'll know once you go back and do some research. The prestige of this academy used to be above that of the 7 major sections. Someone said, I've already counted. In the past few days, this group of people has appeared in almost 200 secret realms. This is crazy. Could it be that none of those mystic realms can stop them? Someone sneered. Do you know who these guys are? Han Fei is famous in the unknown place. When he was an intermediate hidden fisher, he killed a law enforcer. Do you think a secret realm that isn't an explorer can stop them? Swish! Han Fei appeared on the trial square. At this moment, he didn't plan to continue. This time, he had a feast for his eyes. There were really all kinds of strange secret realms. There were undersea jungles, sand seas, insect nests, undead creatures, shipwreck ruins, fish-tide canyons. Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. There were really all kinds of strange places in the ocean. After waiting for a full hour, Zhou Yinling came out. As a law enforcer, Zhou Yinling's exploration speed was very fast. In particular, she had mastered the seal, which made her almost invincible. After a while, Luo Xiaobai, Zhang Xuanyu, Lu Renkuang, and Li Luoluo all came out. Han Fei asked, how is it? How many haven't been explored? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. No. After all, we didn't sweep all the way. We just need to confirm the degree of danger. Zhang Xuanyu curled his lips. I just met an octopus and almost folded myself inside. However, I've cleaned up on my side. Lu Renkuang nodded. We've also cleaned up on our side. There are no more than 10 abnormal secret realms in total. Han Fei nodded. Okay. From now on, we'll leave these secret realms to Xingyue and the others. Next, we'll go to the ruins. Those places are different from these ordinary secret realms. Let's go together. Luo Xiaobai nodded. Okay. Li Luoluo added, actually, I think we can also go to the law enforcer secret realms. After all, we have 6 law enforcers on our side. Luo Xiaobai shook her head. Not for the time being. Through these ordinary secret realms, we can see that ordinary law enforcers can't sweep through them. If the strength of the law enforcer's secret realms reaches the level of an advanced or peak-level law enforcer, the danger will be completely uncontrollable. What Luo Xiaobai said was exactly what Han Fei was thinking. At present, he was the only one here who could fight against an advanced law enforcer head-on. As for the peak-level law enforcers, they wouldn't just stand there and call for help. For example, Qixue Huan, even if he called out his strongest weapon, punishing knife, he still couldn't kill him. From this, it could be seen that Han Fei and the others shouldn't set foot in the law enforcer's secret realms now. In Han Fei's hands, there were only a total of 18 relic secret realms. 8 of them were law enforcers, which meant that they could only explore the remaining 10 for the time being. As for the order of selection, it was naturally from low to difficult. First, it was the dangling fisher level. Han Fei said, don't think it's too low. Relic secret realms are the most mysterious. There will always be some strange information left in them. Let's look at them one by one. After opening the dangling fisher-level star bead again, they walked in and appeared directly in a sunken ship. Huh! In the dark waters, there was a flash of light and the creatures began to flee. In such a low-level relic, of course, no one would chase them. Lu Renkuang said, Anti-Heaven Blade, have we returned to the level 3 fishery? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. Not necessarily the level 3 fishery. The level 3 fishery and these places are all enclosed by humans. But this doesn't rule out the existence of the Anti-Heaven Blade in the outside world. There are many such waters, and there should be many relatively safe places. Han Fei released his aura, and in an instant, a large number of creatures on this huge sunken ship were fleeing. There were jumping oncomelania, octopuses hiding in the broken deck, cuttlefish, razor clams, red-browed prawns, and all kinds of starfish. Anyway, at the moment when the aura of the strong pressed down, hundreds of kinds of creatures began to flee frantically. After all, the level of this secret realm was too low, and the creatures here wouldn't be very strong. Luo Xiaobai said, don't destroy this secret realm. Leave it to Daji and the others in the future. To them, the danger of this secret realm is definitely not small. Judging from the position of the creatures that had just escaped, ordinary dangling fishers would have to fight all the way in, which was very dangerous. Han Fei nodded. Yes, we just need to observe carefully. First of all, from the outside, this sunken ship looked very old, and it had a mast. But this thing couldn't be seen on fishing boats nowadays. Looking at the size of this sunken ship, it was more than 300 meters long, which couldn't be compared to today's small ordinary fishing boats. Just from the appearance, Han Fei could confirm that this ship was the kind of normal ship that he knew, not used for fishing. Besides, there were 2 rows of skeleton-like railings on both sides of the hull. After so many years, it hadn't decayed, revealing the jade-like internal structure. And there was a dragon head on the bow of the ship, not a real dragon head, but a dragon head like the green wandering flood dragon that Han Fei had seen before. As Luo Xiaobai's vines swept, the hull covered by barnacles and seaweeds was exposed, and delicate patterns could be seen. And these patterns were not only seaweeds but also various strange beast patterns. Seeing this, Han Fei narrowed his eyes. It's a ship left from ancient times. It seems to have been damaged in battle. However, the hull doesn't decay and has reached the quality of an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, fuck. This ship is very valuable. Lu Renkuang was dumbfounded. We're rich. We should have come to the ruins earlier. Jiu Yinling said, I've seen similar patterns in some ancient books, but there are very few records. Luo Xiaobai said, you have to look further. When they obtained this secret realm, it's impossible for the president and the others not to know the value of this ship. However, they didn't move. First of all, the Thug Academy doesn't need to sell ultra-quality spiritual weapons to make a living. What we want to obtain, we have to obtain it through experience. Wealth is just wealth. It doesn't really mean anything. Han Fei nodded. Yes, excluding the value of this ship itself, there must be something more meaningful inside. Let's split up and look around. It seems that there is no danger here. Chapter 10:13. If he wanted to find the hidden story in this ship, he had to clean this ship first. Therefore, Luo Xiaobai and Li Luoluo played a great role. Luo Xiaobai controlled the spiritual plants to clean, and Li Luoluo cleaned through the insects. It seemed that manipulators had unique talents in certain things. For example, cleaning now. After a while, Han Fei found the main cabin inside the hull. This surprised Han Fei. This was different from the layout of the fishing boat. The place where Han Fei was now could be called the control room, and below was the rest cabin. Han Fei saw the rudder here, which made his eyelids twitch. Han Fei directly passed this cabin and went to the rest room. After a while, he found a jade box in a closed cupboard without having to search at all. In the box, there was a nautical diary. When he saw this nautical diary, Han Fei grinned. Sure enough, humans used to be more like seafarers, not like now, where fishing boats had become a means of travel. And a nautical diary was a must-have for a captain. This box should have been opened, probably by a former student of the Thug Academy. The reason why this nautical diary was left here was in line with the habit of the Thug Academy. When the students in the future had this strength, they could naturally come over and check it themselves. Han Fei took out this box, and everyone immediately surrounded it. Zhang Xuanyu asked in surprise, "What is this?" Han Fei smiled. "A nautical diary." Zhou Yinling asked in surprise, "What is a nautical diary?" Considering Zhou Yinling's cultivation technique needs, Han Fei explained, in ancient times, the sea was not everything. There were also continents. Some humans needed to explore the sea through large ships. At that time, it was very likely that there were no flying fishing boats. Therefore, the ship we found is very different from a normal fishing boat. And such a big ship needs a captain. In order to record everything on the journey for future reference, the captain needs to make a nautical diary every day. For example, the captain can record the location of some special reefs, which is equivalent to drawing a map. It can also be used to record the voyage every day. This nautical diary is equivalent to a memo. If something happens to this ship, even if people find it thousands of years later, they will know what happened to it at that time. Well, in fact, the nautical diary itself is also an interesting record book. There are often many stories in it. The others were all shocked by what Han Fei said. Was it so complicated for ancient people to sail a ship? Shouldn't fishing be the main purpose of taking notes be the fishing? With that said, Han Fei opened the fish skin map that wrapped the diary. On it was a drawing of the sea route, as well as a description of the land and port. However, this thing had no value now. Because all the places were submerged, this nautical chart was useless. Han Fei threw the nautical chart away, and Luo Xiaobai picked it up. "Don't throw it away." Han Fei didn't pay much attention to it, but then he saw that it said, Hope Exploration Record, which was the name of the ship. He opened the homepage. There was only a short handwriting on it, written in the captain's handwriting, signed by Lin Song. He was probably the captain of the Hope. Han Fei opened the notebook, and what came into view was, year 13822, Yangji 17th, the Hope departed. This was the title, and the main text was as follows. In just over 10 years, tsunamis broke out everywhere, and countless marine creatures swept through the safe waters. This was not the first time this had happened in history. But this time, it was extremely serious. Today, half of the land of Yu City has been overturned. The sea demons attacked, and the cities fought fiercely. The city lord appointed me as the captain of the Hope to go to the Boulder City to ask for help. I don't know if there's still hope for the Hope. Many large ships have been sent before, but none of them returned. Maybe. In any case, I am the Hope now. I shoulder the Hope, and I will carry the Hope. The first page of the diary was gone. Han Fei turned to the next page. On the second page of the diary, it was written on the 21st of Yangji. Han Fei wasn't sure what Yangji was, but it should be something like a calendar. Lin Sung wrote, Today's ocean is too terrifying. We have encountered the biggest blow in history. In a big fish tide, nearly half of the strong masters on the ship died, and 3 law enforcers died. I don't know what to do next. I'm sure of one thing. We encountered the legendary marine races, including murlocs, shrimp soldiers, crab generals, demonic snakes, clam girls. Legend has it that these creatures have been destroyed by the gods. It seems that the gods have deceived us. The enemies that Yu City faces are not just those ordinary sea demons. What we are facing may be countless races that should have lived in the endless deep sea. Fortunately, my strength has reached the explorer level, and I saved the Hope. But tomorrow, I don't know, after reading the second page. Everyone's eyes widened. Luo Xiaobai asked, Gods? Li Luoluo said in surprise, What is a god? Is it a realm above the king level? Zhou Yinling also asked curiously, What kind of creatures are shrimp soldiers and crab generals? What kind of creatures are demonic snakes and clam girls? Han Fei and the others looked at each other, their eyes full of surprise. Is this related to the age of the gods that Old Bai mentioned? Han Fei said, who are these so-called gods? None of us knows. However, the creatures like shrimp soldiers and crab generals might be creatures beyond our knowledge. Isn't it said that there is still the endless sea beyond us? Perhaps, there are other living creatures in the distant sea. Who knows? Han Fei didn't explain too much and continued to turn 2 pages, which were all about war. What crisis did they encounter today? What strange things happened? It wasn't until the 5th page that Han Fei and the others paid attention to it. On the 27th of Yangji, we can't stop it anymore. When they saw the words, can't stop it anymore, Han Fei and the others were slightly shocked. It wasn't hard to imagine a scene that even explorers couldn't stop. When this hope set off, there must be a lot of strong masters accompanying it. However, this also couldn't prevent people from dying every day. It was recorded in the diary, this wasn't an ordinary crisis. It was a crisis that had never been seen before. In this endless sea, there must be a new god rising. I saw a scene that I can never forget in this life. Thousands of creatures are awakening and becoming demons. Their purpose is not just to target you city. I reckon that Boulder City's situation isn't any better. The other party has 3 spirit-breaking and Tao-seeking state powerhouses. I finally know why the strongest person in U City disappeared for no reason. I think it's not that he disappeared, but that he was restricted by a sea monster who has reached the Tao-seeking realm. U City may be destroyed. After writing this line of words, I may die in battle in this vast sea. If the latter can see the Diary of the Hope, please inform the human beings and find another way to find that legendary place. If they searched for that legendary place, perhaps there would still be hope for humanity. Signed, Lin Sung. Han Fei hurriedly turned the pages, but the latter part was just as recorded in the diary. After writing this page, Lin Sung went to fight. He probably died. And this time, the Hope's plan to ask for help at sea finally failed. Lu Renquang couldn't help asking curiously, isn't he already an explorer? Why didn't he fly there directly but go by sea? Han Fei thought for a moment and said, don't forget, there are strong masters among the sea monsters. If he could fly, do you think Lin Sung wouldn't fly? Luo Xiaobai said, there is another possibility. Lin Sung's strength is not very strong among the explorers. If the distance between the 2 places is too far, I'm afraid explorers can't fly all the time, can they? Han Fei shook his head. Not necessarily. Explorers should be able to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth immediately. Besides, according to what you said, couldn't they just teleport there directly? Why did they have to sail there? Since they can't, it can only mean that these methods were useless at that time, or they were destroyed. Luo Xiaobai suggested, let's look again and see if there is anything else. Han Fei thought for a moment. Among the records on a ship, only the voyage diary should be the most valuable. Han Fei didn't continue looking. But not long after, Zhou Yinling pulled out a small box and ran to Han Fei's side. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Huh. This box was well preserved. Everyone gathered around again. But as soon as the box was opened, when Han Fei saw the scattered shells, crab pincers, a transparent glass, and a few metal objects, he already understood what it was. Han Fei smiled and said, this is just a simple storage box. I guess it should be a crew member who wanted to bring some gifts back for his children. So, all kinds of things are put here. They are all small toys. As for why they weren't put in the sea-swallowing seashell, it was probably because these things were very common and not worth much. Well, maybe the sea-swallowing seashell is more expensive, and this crew member can't afford it. Zhou Yinling stuck out her tongue. It seemed that she didn't find anything useful. After a while, no one found anything special. Those decorative engravings were not worth deciphering. So Han Fei said, okay, let's go out. Let's go to the next site. Chapter 1014. The ruins of a hanging fissure level were completely different from those of a dangling fissure level. In fact, the heavenly desolate city that Han Fei and the others went to should be equivalent to a hanging fissure level site. But once they went back to the past, who knew what kind of ruins it was? Maybe it was not a ruin at all, but a kind of opportunity. At this moment, Han Fei and the others arrived at a hanging fissure level site, which was a very small human gathering place. Undead spirits roared here, but it was of no use to Han Fei and the others. After exploring around, Han Fei and the others found some traces left by human beings. For example, Li Luoluo came out of nowhere with a pair of intact large vases, which surprised Han Fei. Is there porcelain in this place? Of course, Han Fei's answer was, why are you holding 2 jars? Li Luoluo said, don't you think this is very exquisite? Look at the painting, the carving, the posture. Hey, don't go. At this moment, Zhang Xuanyu came over with a rusty rod. He shook his head and said, this is just a trial mystic realm. There's nothing special about it. It's possible that this place was wiped out during a sea demon attack. The third ruin was similar to the second one, except that there were more undead spirits here and they were relatively stronger. Moreover, this place was full of boulders, and there were many tall and damaged buildings with different styles of human faces. Suddenly, Li Luoluo shouted again, come here, come here. Everyone rushed over, only to find that Li Luoluo had dug out a skeleton with insects. However, when they saw the skeleton, they were a little stunned. Zhou Yinling was surprised. This person's skeleton is so tall. I'm afraid it's 7 or 8 meters tall. Lu Renkuang said in surprise, it's not a human being, is it? Zhang Xuanyu curled his lips and said, it must be a human being. Look, if it's not a human skeleton, what is it? Luo Xiaobai said, let's look again. After a while, they dug out 2 or 3 such corpses. Among them, the largest skeleton was about 15 meters tall. Han Fei looked at the almost jade-like skeleton and said, it should be a different human race, the giant clan. Everyone looked at Han Fei and thought, how do you know everything? Han Fei said leisurely, first of all, we confirm that this is a human skeleton. Since they were human skeletons, it could be concluded that they were human. This was an ancient ruin. Not to mention the giant tribe, I wouldn't even be surprised if the dwarf tribe came. Who knows, there might even be those palm-sized humans. Everyone rolled their eyes, and Li Luoluo said disdainfully, a palm-sized dwarf? Wouldn't they be exterminated just like that? Han Fei said with a smile, the sea creatures are getting bigger and bigger, but human beings are still going extinct. Different clansmen would definitely have different characteristics. These skeletons are boring to look at. It would be best for everyone to look for some stone carvings or books. Only then will it have archaeological value. An hour later. Zhang Xuanyu suddenly said, come here, I found something. Following Zhang Xuanyu, the group ran more than 800 kilometers away. Han Fei was lost for words. How far did this guy run just now? Zhang Xuanyu took Han Fei and the others to a cliff, pointed to the large stone sculptures on the cliff, and said, look, they are indeed giants. In the picture, a group of burly giants seemed to be building a city. Some giants moved mountains, and some giants took out giant trees from the sea. Then the picture changed to the scene of the giants eating. And in this picture, there was a strange scene, that was, the giants would worship a totem after eating. And that totem turned out to be a female figure, which Han Fei and the others were familiar with. It was the statue of the sea god. Zhang Xuanyu smiled and said, it seems that in ancient times, people began to worship the sea god as soon as they came. Luo Xiaobai suddenly said, wait a minute, in the Dharma ending era, there were already people who worshipped the same sea god as us. Then, how long has it been since then? Luo Xiaobai's question stunned everyone. God knows how long they had worshipped the sea god. Luo Xiaobai said, don't forget. Just now, when we were reading the nautical diary, we found that it had been more than 10,000 years. And it must have been 10,000 years since the Dharma ending era. Otherwise, there would definitely be a lot of records about the Dharma ending era left by venerable powerhouses. But the fact is, they didn't. Han Fei swallowed and said, "This means that the sea god we worship has actually lived for a very, very long time and may not be dead yet." Lu Rinquang hurriedly said, "Wait, can a god die?" Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, "I'm just thinking, is the so-called sea god a king in the Pioneer Sea state? If it is, then the king has lived for too long. If it isn't, then the realm above the king." Zhou Yinling suddenly said, "Look at the third picture. It's a war, and there's a particularly tall giant." Everyone hurriedly turned their eyes to the third picture. The giant in the lead was fighting a huge octopus monster. The giant was more than twice as tall as the other giants. According to the height of 15 meters just now, this giant was probably close to 40 meters, right? This giant was holding a huge axe in his hand. Luo Xiaobai said, "I think I've seen him before." Han Fei said, "He's a bit like Yang Diyu. Do you remember his will of the god of war? Isn't it similar to this giant?" Han Fei was already sure that the Yang family must have obtained a secret realm related to the giants and inherited something, such as a bloodline. He was also wondering if the Chao family also had this kind of inheritance. After all, Chao Qiu had the bloodline of the god of war. He didn't seem human at all. Han Fei interpreted, they experienced a battle with sea demons. "See? There's a big shell over there. It's the clam girl. However, I don't see shrimp soldiers and crab generals. They seem to be fighting with mollusk creatures." There were a total of 6 pictures. In the 4th picture, the battle was obviously a failure. In order to preserve the bloodline, this giant performed some kind of sacrifice on a newborn baby. In the 5th picture, the clouds in the sky opened and a pair of eyes appeared above the clouds. Seeing this scene, Han Fei's pupils constricted. On the fish skin that Ren Tianfei left him, there was a pair of eyes like this. Li Luoluo couldn't help but shiver. Huh, what a weird eye. In the 6th picture, it was the door of a palace. Where was this palace? Han Fei already had an idea, Immortal Palace. Luo Xiaobai and the others exchanged glances and didn't say anything. Luo Xiaobai said, "Let's go to the next ruin." Unfortunately, the 3rd ruin was still like a battlefield in a village, with many undead spirits. But the undead spirits here were all normal. There were no giants, no stone inscriptions, and no books left. The dangling fisher ruins were explored. The hanging fisher ruins were also explored. There were 6 hidden fisher ruins. Not surprisingly, the degree of danger here would be greater. However, Han Fei and the others had 6 people, so they didn't panic at all. At the same time, in a certain family, someone reported, Han Fei and the others should be cleaning up the secret realms. But today their speed is extremely slow. The 6 of them set off together and it took them a day to explore 4 secret realms. They should be exploring the ruins. Yes. The ruins of the hidden fisher level shouldn't be a problem for them. They shouldn't be able to explore the ruins of the law enforcers. Don't worry about it for the time being. On the other side, someone also had a similar response. Don't worry about it for the time being. The secret realms left by the Thug Academy are just for testing disciples. Let's wait until they finish exploring all the ruins and enter the galaxy to find new ruins. Someone else responded, "Don't worry. Let's wait for a while and then send someone to see if we can exchange for the ruins from them." In the hidden fisher ruins, this time Han Fei ignored the 3 maps that looked like battlefields and chose 3 architectural ruins. At this moment, Han Fei and the others were standing in a place that looked like a tower-shaped altar. It looked a bit like a pyramid. But Han Fei knew that it wasn't. There were only 5 levels to the altar, and there were exactly 45 steps. At the top, there was a room. Han Fei tried to perceive it, only to find that the entire altar was blocked. Han Fei grinned. "Let me do it." Luo Xiaobai stretched out her hand and tied Han Fei up with vines. Be careful. What Han Fei didn't want to climb the most was a weird place like the altar. These places always contained mysteries. God knew if they would let you enter some illusions, memories, or places of the past. Zhou Yinling said, how about I go? I have a seal. Han Fei shook his head. It's okay. What are you going to seal with your seal? No one is going to seal it for you. With that, Han Fei had already stepped on the first step. After stepping on the stairs, Han Fei looked back, only to find that everyone was looking at him. Ha! It's very real. It seems that I worried too much. Seeing that there was no problem, Han Fei quickly climbed up the steps and went all the way to the top safely. At this moment, he saw a small single mausoleum. Yes, there wasn't even a coffin, only 3 walls and a roof. Therefore, this mausoleum was completely exposed in front of Han Fei. The walls were colorful, as if they were totemic patterns. On the 3 walls, there was a small square pit, which was empty. If there was nothing in it, such a small pit shouldn't have been dug out. It was probably taken away by the seniors of the Thug Academy. And on the ground, there was a corpse. When he saw the corpse, Han Fei's eyelids twitched. This was the kind of corpse that had appeared in the underground city and the undersea chimney. Around the corpse, there were 4 small human-shaped statues, kneeling around as if praying. What were they praying for? Han Fei looked up and saw a pair of scary big eyes painted on the top of the house. Fuck, these eyes again. Chapter 10-15. Last time, Han Fei forgot to ask Ren Tianfei what the eyes on the fish skin painting were. This was the 3rd or 4th time that he had seen these eyes. Even a fool would know what this pair of eyes represented. It was a symbol of extraordinariness. Han Fei stared at the eyes, trying to see if he could find any information from the patterns on the walls around the altar. But for some reason, he felt that his scalp was a little numb and his body was going to have goosebumps. Suddenly, in his vision, he saw that the eyes that were originally carved on the top of the room moved. Originally, the eyes were looking at the corpse on the ground. But at this moment, the eyes were already looking at Han Fei. Gulp. Han Fei swallowed. His invincible heart actually gave birth to the will of resistance. Han Fei suddenly shouted, "Stop pretending to be mysterious. What are you looking at? Come here if you have the guts." Crack, crack, crack. Hum. As soon as Han Fei's voice fell, the corpse that was lying on the ground and was about to decay suddenly stood up. Fuck, they're really coming. Han Fei flew back, looked back, and saw that a few people were frantically gesturing to him. Following the direction of their hand gestures, a pair of blurry eyes appeared in the void above. Fuck. There's one outside too. Swish. Han Fei retreated all the way to the altar. As for the corpse, it quickly caught up to him. This made Han Fei and the others dumbfounded. What the hell is this? It wasn't until Han Fei left the altar that he heard their voices. Zhang Xuanyu asked, "What's this?" Li Luoluo shouted, "Disperse." Luo Xiaobai shouted, "Get ready to fight." Zhou Yinling clasped her hand in the air and a seal appeared. Seal. It could be seen that the corpse paused for a moment. But for some reason, the corpse seemed to have a strange power that helped him break free. Devil Change. Taking advantage of the pause of the corpse, Han Fei activated Devil Change and spread the phantom glass wings. Han Fei shouted, "All of you, disperse. I'll fight him." As he spoke, Han Fei's figure directly stuck to the side of the corpse. As the saying goes, those who are skilled are bold. In terms of close-range combat skills, Han Fei was also not weak. At that moment, Han Fei's body was shining with golden light. He grabbed the corpse with one hand and bumped his shoulder. Bang! A violent explosion occurred between the two of them. Han Fei never expected that a corpse could be so powerful. Seal. Instant profound spear. Insect bite. In that instant, everyone exploded with power. Countless tiny vines shot out from the feet of the corpse, wrapping around it. Holding the knife with one hand, Han Fei twisted his body and activated the draw technique at a super close distance. Clang, ding. Bang. This slash landed solidly on the body of the corpse. Then, the sound it made Han Fei's blood freeze. This thing's corpse is as hard as a mid-quality divine weapon. The corpse was smashed away in an instant. After rolling on the ground for who knows how many times, his chest was pierced by an inch by the tip of the rod. The rod in Zhang Xuanyu's hand was bent like a bow. Roar! The corpse shook and Zhang Xuanyu was sent flying, rolling dozens of times before he stopped. And the insects that Li Luoluo tried to drill into the corpse's body were all crushed by the shock. Zhou Yinling pointed a finger and poked the forehead of the corpse. The corpse was blasted away again and rolled dozens of times on the ground. With a crack, a knife mark appeared on the chest of the corpse, which was just cut by Han Fei. True martial demonic knife. Together with the true martial demonic knife, Han Fei activated the sky-swallowing technique. Lu Renkuang sucked the corpse with the sky-swallowing technique and slashed directly at its head. Clang from Lu Renkuang's hand to his body, and then to his face, the recoil force of the slash made him feel what power was. Crack. Fortunately, Lu Renkuang's slash was quite violent and directly split the head of the corpse. Han Fei took the opportunity to flash over and use the draw technique again, directly cutting off its arm. Luo Xiaobai immediately understood what Han Fei meant. The vines fastened the limbs of the corpse and tore them apart. Clang. The battle lasted for close to 100 breaths before they managed to get rid of the corpse. And this was under the condition that Han Fei used devil change. When Han Fei looked up again, he found that the pair of eyes had disappeared. Zhang Xuanyu kicked the corpse and said, "Wow, it's too hard, isn't it? This corpse is comparable to a divine weapon." Lu Renkuang rubbed his stomach and sighed. More than that. The strength is amazing. Fortunately, we came together. Otherwise, we would have been in danger. Han Fei nodded. No wonder there are so few high-level secret realms. And this is only a hidden Fisher-level secret realm. Then how strong are the law enforcers? Luo Xiaobai said, "What did you see up there just now?" Li Luoluo said, "Yes. Just now you stood there motionless, and then a pair of eyes appeared in the void. It was so scary." Han Fei curled his lips and said, "Nothing, just a pair of eyes. Now, the corpse is useless. Let's go. I'll take you to have a look." After a moment, when Han Fei led everyone to climb the altar, suddenly, Han Fei's eyes widened. Everyone looked at Han Fei speechlessly. Zhang Xuanyu was dumbfounded. "Really? Fei, why is there another corpse?" Han Fei was also dumbfounded. "Fuck, let's retreat." After 100 minutes. With the experience just now, everyone cooperated perfectly and killed the corpse. Their faces were full of doubts. Han Fei said with a sullen face, "When I was up there just now, I only saw one corpse. But when I went up with you, I saw another one. If there is no accident, we will still see another corpse if we go up now. The problem is not the corpse, but the eyes." Everyone looked at each other. What kind of weird altar is this? Can the corpses be endless? Luo Xiaobai said, "So, it's not that the seniors didn't explore this place, but that they did, but new corpses were found. But what are those eyes? There are also these eyes in the giant's ruins, which seem to be above the clouds." Han Fei nodded. "Let's go to the next place. This relic is only this big. I think it's a building. Who knew it would come here to fight? Let's go to the next one." Han Fei had basically figured out what this treasure trove was for. It was to tell those who came here that these eyes were weird. And this secret realm was to remind everyone to pay attention to them. No matter whether there was anything else worth investigating here or not, this secret realm was still in his hands anyway. There was no need to repeatedly fight with a corpse now. Besides, Han Fei suspected that the source of this corpse was not the plane of the underground city, so he thought of the immortal palace. Han Fei still remembered that when he took the source water, the shadow said that the immortal palace was full of this kind of corpse puppets. Not only this kind of low-level puppets, but there should even be a lot of explorer-level puppets. Han Fei thought, even if I come to this secret realm again, I can only come alone. Han Fei nodded. Let's go to the next place. Wait a minute. Luo Xiaobai interrupted Han Fei. I have a question. Han Fei asked, huh? Luo Xiaobai looked at the altar and said, I don't know why, but I always feel that these ruins we have passed are all related. In the ruins of the giants, we saw these eyes. But don't forget, above these eyes, there is an illusory palace. Zhou Ling suddenly said, by the way, there's something I don't know if I should say. Everyone looked over, and Han Fei couldn't help but say, go ahead. Zhou Ling pursed her lips and said, when I was cultivating the comfort technique, I was once brought into some kind of illusion by a strange power. I once saw a huge floating island that I had never seen before, and there were melodious sounds nearby. Everyone continued to wait. However, Zhou Ling blinked and didn't speak. Han Fei was stunned for a moment. That's all. Zhou Ling blushed slightly and opened her mouth. That's all. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. Okay. That's good news. Zhou Ling blushed and secretly stuck out her tongue. It wasn't easy for her to interject, but it didn't seem to be very effective. Han Fei said, Xiaobai has a point. If these ruins are all connected, it means that all the ruins in the thousand-star proving ground are very likely to be connected. More or less, they all involve some secrets about the Age of Doom. Luo Xiaobai said, if that's the case, then the star beads of our ruins should be very valuable. Han Fei immediately said in distress, but we can't snatch the ruins of other families. Zhou Ling opened her mouth and slowly said, there should be a few in my family. Luo Xiaobai also said, there are some in my family too. Han Fei couldn't help but laugh dryly. There's no hurry. The purpose of coming to the thousand-star proving ground this time has been achieved. It's mainly to sweep through the secret realms, which are suitable for Su Daiji and the others to cultivate. As for exploring the ruins of the Age of Doom, it's just my own interest. Besides, even if we don't have enough ruins, there are still the 3 Holy Lands to explore. There's no hurry. We have plenty of time to do these things. In fact, Han Fei already had a guess in his heart. If this pair of eyes could bring out a corpse, would it be possible for them to bring a person up? If his guess was right, then the so-called 1000-star testing field and the 8-star and 9-star secret realms might appear directly in the Immortal Palace. In Han Fei's opinion, these ruins might also be a kind of spatial channel that allowed one to come and go freely. So, it didn't matter where he went. Why couldn't it directly lead to the Divine Palace? Chapter 1016. 3 days later. They had been in the 1000-star proving ground for nearly 10 days. Unfortunately, not every ruin had secrets to explore. For example, among the remaining hidden Fisher-level sites, 2 had completely collapsed and were basically worthless. Instead, he found a coffin in a battlefield relic that Han Fei was least optimistic about. This was also the last ruin that everyone could explore at this level. Apart from the location of the coffin, there were signs of collapse everywhere in the ruins. This place used to look like an earthen city, but it was blasted into dregs during the battle. It was a scene of desolation. Zhang Xuanyu said, such a violent fighting style, I think it should be done by one of our own. I mean, the seniors of our Thug Academy once fought here and destroyed this place. Han Fei asked, then why is this coffin the only thing left? At this moment, everyone was standing before the coffin. There were some strange patterns carved on the outside of the coffin. These patterns basically covered the entire coffin. Coupled with the inlaid gold and jade lines, it made the coffin look extremely noble. The patterns on the coffins were even more interesting. There were 20 of them, and Han Fei could basically recognize all of them. There were crocodiles, houses, snakes, deer, rabbits, flowing water, skeletons, wolf heads, apes, leaves of grass, giant eagles, flowers. There were also a few that he did not recognize. Perhaps these creatures were relatively rare. The first thing that came to Han Fei's mind when he saw this kind of relief was the stone carvings of ancient humans. In the past, to his knowledge, the most famous ancient human stone inscription was the Sun Stone inscription, also known as the Sun Stone. It was a calendar that recorded time. It was usually in the shape of a disc, like the heavenly stems and earthly branches. However, you insisted on carving it on the coffin. I wonder if there's any meaning behind it. Could it be that a noble coffin was no longer a coffin? Wasn't he still dead? What was the point of being so luxurious? Clearly, the stone inscription on the coffin was not a calendar. The pictures of these small animals were quite strange. Could it be the result of a hunt? Han Fei pondered carefully and found feeble waves of energy and spiritual energy around the coffin. That feeling was like a human breathing. This feeling was very weak, but Han Fei and the others were all about to become law enforcers. It was impossible that they couldn't even feel this. Lu Renkuang swallowed. Are we going to open it or not? Li Luoluo bared her teeth and said, why didn't the seniors of the Thug Academy open it before? Why are you leaving them for us? Zhou Yinling suddenly said, it must have been opened. Everyone looked at him, and Han Fei said, you know about it again? Zhou Yinling blushed and said, you know my cultivation technique. Although it's changed, I can still vaguely hear some strange sounds. First, I could hear the faint breathing of someone inside the coffin. Another one, I seem to be able to see some blurry images from this place. It seems like someone had opened this coffin before, and there seemed to be a woman sleeping inside. I don't know why it was sealed again. The others looked at each other in bewilderment. What's this? Foresight? Han Fei raised his eyebrows. Is it the carefree technique? Zhou Yinling nodded slightly. Yes, although it's been abandoned, it still retains some of its characteristics. In the past, the natural law could be connected to the music of the world and could see a trace of fog from the music. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, is the woman inside still alive? Zhou Yinling shook her head. I don't know. But I think since she's breathing, she should still be alive. Li Luoluo said, it's getting more and more mysterious. Aren't we here to explore the secret realm? Have we become grave robbers? Luo Xiaobai said, since we've opened it, let's open it. Han Fei nodded. Be careful. Once something goes wrong, use the secret method immediately. Fatty, help me open the coffin gently. The flesh on Lu Renkuang's face trembled, and he couldn't help but complain, why is it always me? Zhang Xuanyu smiled and said, otherwise, why would you let a girl come? As Han Fei and Lu Renkuang lifted the coffin lid, they looked at each other. This coffin lid was so heavy. Han Fei said, maybe there's a gravity array under this coffin lid. It's okay. Move it first. When the two of them gently moved the coffin lid, the first thing that appeared in the coffin was a pair of bare feet with tender white skin. Then, there was a delicate calf. Then, there was a green gauze dress. It's really a woman. Everyone looked at each other. When Han Fei and Lu Renkuang moved the coffin lid away, they looked back and found that it was a girl with a delicate face, about 20 years old. In terms of appearance, she was quite cute. Her face was slightly chubby, and her hands were crossed on her abdomen. Under the girl's hands, there was a jade slip. Seeing this, everyone looked at each other. There must be a lot of information in this jade slip. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, should we take it or not? Luo Xiaobai rolled her eyes at Han Fei. Who should I ask? Han Fei smiled and said, okay. Then let's take it. I don't believe that this woman can still come back to life. Zhou Yinling said, then why didn't the previous seniors take it? Han Fei and the others were stunned by this question. Who would know? Han Fei said, I'm not afraid. Let me touch it and try to read the information in this jade slip. Luo Xiaobai suggested, shall I? Let me try with spiritual plants first. Han Fei nodded. This was better than directly grabbing it. Luo Xiaobai summoned a grass vine and slowly extended it to the jade slip. Seeing that the woman didn't react at all, everyone was relieved. However, Luo Xiaobai frowned and said, I can't read any information from the jade slip. Everyone knew that Luo Xiaobai could parasitize vines and make spiritual plants a part of her. Was this jade slip useless? Han Fei directly reached out. Since Luo Xiaobai couldn't read anything, there shouldn't be a big problem. Han Fei gently moved the woman's hand away and pointed at the jade slip with one finger. Master, fuck. Han Fei suddenly withdrew his hand and saw that Lu Rinquang and the others all activated secret techniques. Zhang Xuanyu asked nervously, what's wrong? Han Fei glanced at the woman lying in the coffin and said after a long time, it's okay. It's a jade slip. Why don't you try to check it with your finger? Li Luoluo was speechless. You scared us to death. Do you know that it's easy to scare people to death? Luo Xiaobai was also speechless. Just now, she almost used a secret technique. Zhou Ling's seal had already condensed in her hand. Zhang Xuanyu said with a constipated look, let me do it. Han Fei nodded. It's not a big deal. Just put your finger on this jade slip and see what happens. Zhang Xuanyu glanced at Han Fei. Maybe Han Fei was just scaring people. It must be okay. If there was something wrong, would he ask me to check it? Zhang Xuanyu slowly stretched out his finger and put it on the jade slip. However, after a while, Zhang Xuanyu said, there's no reaction. Li Luoluo nodded. Let me try. After a while, Li Luoluo shook her head. I really can't see anything. Is it because this jade slip is too old and useless? Luo Xiaobai shook her head slightly. It should be impossible. Then, Zhou Ling, Lu Rinquang, and the others also tried, but there was no reaction. Dubiously, Han Fei stretched out his finger again and pointed at the jade slip. This time, the same voice sounded. Master, is that you? Han Fei's pupils constricted and his fingers froze. Luo Xiaobai and the others were stunned. Zhang Xuanyu scolded with a smile, don't pretend. None of us have any reaction, but you do. Do you think this is your daughter-in-law? However, Han Fei ignored Zhang Xuanyu. He tried to infuse his spiritual power into the jade slip. Who are you? Suddenly, Han Fei sensed an excited spiritual power touching him. The spiritual power conveyed a message, Master, are you back? I've been waiting for you for a long time. Han Fei said, well. Miss, I guess I am not your master. You may have been lying in bed for tens of thousands of years, but I am only 20 years old. That psychic power suddenly shook. Impossible. If you are not my master, how can you have my bloodline power? Suddenly, the spiritual power moved again. Ah! Master, have you been reincarnated? Han Fei was dumbfounded. Are you kidding me? Can I go back to Earth after I'm reborn? However, Han Fei immediately grasped a key piece of information. Luo Xiaobai and the others couldn't perceive it, but he could. What was the power of the bloodline that this woman was talking about? The only thing Han Fei could think of was the source water. He had met the 9th palace master through the source water. If there was a connection, this was the only one he could think of. Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, I'm not sure. Since I am your master, do you know where I came from? The spiritual power was shaking. Of course it's the yin-yang heaven. Master, haven't you recovered your memory? Don't worry, Master. Maybe your strength hasn't recovered to a certain level. My memories will definitely be reopened. Han Fei said, yin-yang heaven. Are you talking about the 9th immortal palace? Yes, Master. Since you went to spy on the heavenly way, many things have happened. The eye of the heavenly way descended and covered the foundation of the great way of this world. The consciousness of the guardian puppets in the immortal palace was erased by the eye of the heavenly way. As he spoke, Han Fei clearly felt that the spiritual power was a little sad. There were not many people in the Immortal Palace. The puppets rioted and Sister Shui died in the battle. In order to prevent the war in the Immortal Palace from affecting the Thousand Star City, the controller directly blocked the central holy city of the Thousand Star City, restored the 3 holy lands, and cut off the connection between the Immortal Palace and the Thousand Star City. Because was weak, she was sent away from the Thousand Star City by the controller. But because she was too seriously injured, she was attacked by a villain surnamed Chu in the Thousand Star City. As a last resort, she could only reincarnate. Han Fei's blood froze. The Eye of the Heavenly Way. Was that the pair of eyes he saw? A pair of eyes actually blocked the foundation of the Great Way of the entire Yin-Yang Heaven? This was probably the reason why the people in the Thousand Star City couldn't reach the King Realm. Also, what was this woman's reincarnation? However, there was one piece of information that Han Fei knew: Chu. Who else in the Thousand Star City was surnamed Chu except for the Chu sect? Chapter 1017. After the woman said that it was the Chu sect who attacked her, Han Fei immediately understood a lot. Why didn't the Chu sect rob the sea-quelling painting? It seemed that the Chu sect had been exploring the Thousand Star Proving Ground. Why? Was their purpose to find this coffin and this woman? At this moment, Han Fei already knew that those big clans only knew that the sea-quelling painting had an opportunity to become a king. And the opportunity they thought might be different from what he got. What he got was the source water, while what they thought should be going to the Divine Palace through the sea-quelling painting. Therefore, the Divine Palace was their ultimate goal. And the people of the Chu sect had long known about this woman. It could even be said that they had successfully ambushed her while she was unprepared, allowing her to escape into the Star River mystic realm. So, they had been looking for her. How could finding the sea-quelling painting be more direct than finding this woman? Even if they found the sea-quelling painting, they might not be able to go to the Divine Palace. But the chances of finding this woman and going to the Divine Palace were much higher than finding the sea-quelling painting. After all, this woman came down from the Divine Palace. Besides, Han Fei also thought of one thing. Old Bai said that the Thug Patriarch had been to the Divine Palace. So, was the extermination of the Thug Academy related to this? Because the Thug Patriarch had been to the Divine Palace, the big clans of the Thousand Star City, or the Chu sect, thought that the woman had been caught by the Thug Academy, so they came to attack the Thug Academy. In fact, their real purpose was to get the star bead of the Thug Academy. Also, the reason why they crippled Ren Tianfei was probably not just because Ren Tianfei brought the sea-quelling painting down from the Divine Palace, right? Perhaps they also wanted to learn the way to the Divine Palace through Ren Tianfei. As for old Han, this guy had always been mysterious. Others might not know that he had been to the Divine Palace. In any case, this woman was calling him master. He should take advantage of this opportunity to get information out of her. Han Fei thought that this trip to the Thousand Star City would be very difficult. What Thousand Star testing ground? What 3 holy lands? What central holy city? It felt like every single place was very impressive. But who knew? In the ruins left by Old Bai, he could find the people of the Divine Palace. Old Bai probably didn't expect that he could talk to this girl. Han Fei immediately asked, "What's your name?" "Master, you can call me Ci, or Xiao Ci. That's what you used to call me. Little Ci. That Chu guy you mentioned, is he from the Chu sect? The Truman Show?" He had never heard of this faction. "However, I know that person's surname is Chu. They destroyed a part of Ci's divine soul and stole his star shell." Han Fei thought to himself, the Chu men must have become the Chu men later. The Chu clan was built on Xiao Xi's legacy. Son of a bitch. No wonder the Chu sect was so keen on the Thousand Star Proving Ground. It looked like they had obtained too many benefits and wanted to continue reaping benefits from Little Ci. "Little Ci, how do I enter the Immortal Palace?" Xiao Xi's consciousness trembled for a moment. "Master, what's your current strength?" Han Fei said straightforwardly, I'm on the path of invincibility, so it's very difficult for me to make progress. I've just become a peak-level hidden fisher and am about to become a law enforcer. Ah! Master, you actually chose the path of invincibility? Han Fei couldn't help but ask, what's wrong with the path of invincibility? Xiao Xi's spiritual power seemed a little nervous. She hurriedly said, Master, it is said that the path of invincibility is a path of no return. It is said that there is no invincibility in this world. In history, less than 1 out of 10 people who embarked on the path of invincibility survived. Why did you choose this path? Fuck. Han Fei was dumbfounded. What do you mean? Invincible was such an awesome path, could it be that it was so miserable? However, Han Fei said indifferently, heaven and earth are heartless and treat all things as dogs. Since I embarked on this path, I have my own karma. Okay, little CI, how do I go to the immortal palace? Han Fei felt that he just needed to brag a little. If he bragged too much, he might expose himself. Xiao Ci was silent for a moment and said, Master, I'm afraid you can't go to the immortal palace for the time being. Han Fei said, I know I'm not strong enough, but I really need to know how to go there. After learning the way, I have to find a way to go to the Waterwood Heaven to survive the tribulation and become an explorer. The person who hurt you has now become a force, called the Chu sect, which is guarded by a venerable. If I don't leave and become a law enforcer in the Yin-Yang Heaven, I may be in danger of dying. Huh? Her spiritual power fluctuated violently. Those bastards surnamed Chu, how dare they hurt you, Master? Little Ci, little Ci. Han Fei hurriedly said, don't get excited. I have my ways to deal with them. I know there are many puppets in the immortal palace, and the source water is there. So, I won't give the Chu sect a chance. When I know the way to the immortal palace, I will quickly become a law enforcer and undergo the tribulation in the Waterwood Heaven. Once I succeed, I will cultivate for a while and become a venerable. Then I will destroy all these big clans. Xiao Xi's spiritual power fluctuated. You must destroy them, ruthlessly. Master, in fact, after you awaken your memory, you will naturally know the way to the immortal palace. However, these two methods are too difficult now. One is the level 9 secret realm in the galaxy, which is your daily cultivation place. However, with your current strength, I'm afraid you can't go there in a short time through this method. Because your strength will at least need to reach the peak of the venerable realm. Han Fei rolled his eyes. The peak of the venerable realm? Are you fucking kidding me? If I really cultivate to the peak of the venerable realm, I can overturn these big clans by myself. At that time, I will have plenty of time and ways to enter the immortal palace. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, what about the other one? Xiao Ci said, go to the central holy city. However, with Master's current strength, I'm afraid it will be a little difficult. However, since Master has embarked on the path of invincibility, it won't be difficult for you to go to the Sky Meditation Garden and the Ideal Palace. Only the God's Memorial Tower may take some effort. But the entrance to the central holy city is guarded by a clone of the controller. It may be very difficult. Han Fei's heart did a flip. What's the strength of the controller's clone? Xiao Ci said, I don't know how long it has been. The controller seems to have been injured. I don't know what level his strength has fallen to. However, he is at least a beginner venerable. Han Fei immediately felt terrible. Are you fucking kidding me? A peak level venerable and a beginner venerable. I can't go to either of them. Xiao Ci said, also, Xiao Ci doesn't know if Master still remembers the killing arrays in the central holy city. Those killing arrays were all set up by the controller. But if Master awakens, everything will be easy. The controller will definitely recognize Master. By then, Master will be able to walk into your back garden. It'll be fine. Han Fei heaved a long sigh in his heart. Most importantly, I'm not your fucking master. This is so difficult. Han Fei couldn't help but feel a headache. Based on Xiao Ci's words, there were only 2 ways to enter the immortal palace. The first way was basically impossible for a while. The peak of the venerable realm was no joke. As for the second way, it seemed that he had to pass the 3 holy lands and enter the central holy city from the god's memorial tower. After reaching the central holy city, he had to defeat the controller's clone and pass some killing arrays. Sigh, why is life so difficult? On the side, Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, Han Fei, are you trying to take advantage of him? You've been holding that jade slip for a long time. Han Fei glanced at Zhang Xuanyu and then asked telepathically, Xiao Xi, then when will this reincarnation you're cultivating be completed? Xiao Xi replied, Master, almost half of my soul has been shattered. When I used the secret method to reincarnate, I was only an early-stage explorer. If I want to be resurrected this time, I need a lot of ownerless souls. Otherwise, I need a lot of things that can revive me. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will take a long time. Han Fei thought that if he could resurrect this Xiao Xi, then maybe he could take her to the god's memorial tower with him. At that time, when the controller saw her, he would probably let her in at any time. However, he didn't have either of the 2 things that Xiao Xi wanted. These were all extremely rare treasures. How could they be obtained so easily? Han Fei said, Xiao Xi, then wait a few years. When I return from the Waterwood Heaven, enter the Immortal Palace, and regain control of the Immortal Palace, I will resurrect you. When I return from the Waterwood Heaven, enter the Immortal Palace, and regain control of the Immortal Palace, I will resurrect you. Xiao Xi replied excitedly, Yes, Master. Xiao Xi will wait for you here. However, Master, although you have a good relationship with the Palace Master of the Waterwood Heavenly Palace, will she covet your power because you are still weak? Han Fei raised his eyebrows. Are the Masters of the Waterwood Heavenly Palace very close to the Masters of the Yinyang Heavenly Palace? Wait, from what little Ci said, the Palace Master of Waterwood Sky is still alive. Han Fei thought about it. How many years has Xiao Xi been lying in bed? Perhaps that person from the Shuemu heaven had also died? As for being coveted, Han Fei was not worried at all. What could someone who was at least at the sea expansion realm covet from me? Perhaps there were many explorers from Shuemu Sky. He might not care at all. Han Fei thought for a moment and immediately replied, Don't worry. Since I dare to go, I'm not afraid that anything will go wrong. After all, I'm not even sure if I'm the Yin-Yang Sky Palace Master. Xiao Xi nodded, It must be. There's no way little Ci is mistaken. There are 2 paths of Yin and Yang in your body. Otherwise, we won't be able to wake little Ci up. Han Fei was stunned again. Wait, what do you mean Yin and Yang? 2 paths of Yin and Yang, this is the strongest talent of our Yin-Yang Sky. No one can have it except the Palace Master. Han Fei smacked his lips. Is she talking about Little Black and Little White? Besides, after taking the origin water, he did have a second spiritual heritage. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, then what do you know about this 2 paths of Yin and Yang? I don't remember this at all. Xiao Xi was silent for a moment. Well, I don't know either. But I know that this is the talent of the Palace Master. Han Fei grinned. Forget it. If you don't know, then you don't know. In any case, there had been a lot of strange things that had happened to him. He didn't know who had schemed against him. Anyway, he had been schemed against. Without that strength, he probably couldn't change this situation. Immediately, Han Fei said, Little Ci, then you can rest here with peace of mind. The day I regain control of the Immortal Palace will be the day you are resurrected. Xiao Xi's spirit fluctuated violently. Yes, Master. Chapter 10:18. Han Fei felt that he was so awesome now that he recruited people everywhere. In the sea quelling painting, he recruited 5 big shots. In an irrelevant place, he recruited another big shot who used to belong to the Immortal Palace. Half of her soul had been destroyed, but she still had the strength of an explorer and knew the method of reincarnation. At first glance, she must have been a very strong and powerful existence. Needless to say, he should have been a beginner venerable in the past, right? Han Fei retracted his hand and said with a contemplative expression, "All right, close the coffin lid." Everyone. Li Luolua wondered, "Han Fei, are you serious? You're acting all high and mighty, but you clearly can't feel anything." Zhang Xuanyu also said contemptuously, "Yes, we can't. Maybe this girl is a senior sister of our thug academy. Let's not rush to cover the coffin. Why don't you try calling her? Anyway, she doesn't seem to be a threat. If she is a senior sister of our academy, we can't just leave her here." Han Fei rolled his eyes and said, "Look at the shape of this coffin. What era is this thing from? Let me tell you, right now, he might be in a deep sleep, brewing something. It's fine to take a look at the jade slip, but if you really pull her up, she may wake up and kill you." With that said, Han Fei had already carried the coffin lid and sealed the coffin. What Han Fei said was true. When he had a chance, he would definitely resurrect Xiao Xi. In this way, not only would he have a thug, but he would also have a personal guide. Well, since she believed that he was her master, then so be it. Since she didn't mind, what else could he dislike? Han Fei said, Okay, I think we've explored enough. To put it bluntly, anything in the Age of Doom can become a relic. God knows how many relics there are. Besides, we only have so many relics in our hands. In the future, when we are strong enough to at least become law enforcers, we can explore them again. Zhou Yinling nodded. Yes, these relics are indeed not of much use for the time being. What's really useful are level 7 secret realms. Han Fei said, "Okay, now that things have come to this point, we've seen all the secret realms that can be seen. Let's go back to school." The outside world. When they came out, some people had left quietly, and some people had been watching them. But the situation of finding fault like last time did not happen. He seemed to know that this was the worst time to stir up trouble. However, even if he didn't pick a fight now, he would pick one in the future. Therefore, in the minds of the great clans, they were merely waiting. As for their final destination, if nothing went wrong, it would be the ruins. In school. Crackle. When he came back, he saw Su Daiji twisting her body in a weird posture, with her head on the ground and one hand spinning the Rubik's Cube. Han Fei immediately shouted, "Su Daiji, what are you doing?" Bang! Su Daiji was shocked. She directly lay on the ground, quickly put away the Rubik's Cube, and began to continue practicing the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. Because when Han Fei left, he left enough body-refining medicine, enough for them to cultivate for a month. Therefore, he was not afraid that they had nothing to do. Su Daiji somehow became a level 9 fisher on her own. Luo Xiaobai said, "It's time to awaken Daji's talent, right? Her strength seems to be improving very fast. Usually, this time is enough." Han Fei nodded. After the test. Seeing that Han Fei and the others were back, everyone was refining their bodies. Only Yi Shiyan pretended to be weak. Han Fei glanced at Zhang Xuanyu. "Yi Shiyan, come here." Zhang Xuanyu pointed at his nose. "Me? You are the acting president." The nine-tailed mantis shrimp suddenly appeared in the open space. After adapting to the sea for a long time, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was usually dozens of meters long. Therefore, when it appeared at this moment, Yi Shiyan and the others were startled. Seeing that the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was about to pounce on him, Han Fei kicked him. "Become smaller, 3 meters." The nine-tailed mantis shrimp quickly became smaller and then rubbed against Han Fei's leg. Han Fei pointed at Yi Shiyan and Su Daiji and said, "Yes, just keep an eye on them. Whoever is lazy will be slapped. Remember to use less strength. Just use level 7 or level 8 strength." Yi Shiyan said aggrievedly, "Darling, smack." Yi Shiyan didn't even see what was happening. Suddenly, a chain appeared in the void and whipped her butt. Don't forget, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was an authentic legendary creature. This slap directly made Yi Shiyan, an intermediate fishing master, lie on the ground, screaming. Han Fei snorted. Who told you to be lazy? Even your husband can't save you. If he dares to save you, I'll slap him too. Zhang Xuanyu quickly pointed at Han Fei and said, Hey, I'm still a pure teenager. Don't blame me for everything. And Yi Shiyan, behave yourself and call me senior brother. Yi Shiyan didn't dare to speak because the big shrimp was already in front of her at this moment. Now, her face turned blue and white. Although Yi Shiyan was naughty, she still knew what she was doing. He was also aware of the severity of the matter. Senior brother Han Fei said that this big shrimp slapped her with level 7 or level 8 strength, but she didn't take it seriously just now. But after this blow, she felt that even the strength of level 7 or level 8 seemed to surpass her. Yi Shiyan couldn't help but swallow. What level of contractual spiritual beast is this? Why is it so powerful? Han Fei was very satisfied with his current state and said to the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, See that? It's that little guy. If she secretly plays with the Rubik's Cube again, I'll slap him. Su Daiji shuddered slightly, then started to train methodically. At this moment, Han Fei said, The 5 of you, have you practiced the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies once? Xingyu nodded. Senior brother, I've already practiced it once. It's just that it took a little long. Han Fei nodded secretly. This was indeed a little difficult. To be able to complete all the postures in 10 days, it was enough to show that these people were very talented. At least, he had obtained the incomplete monograph on 108 ways of body tempering. With his aptitude back then, he couldn't even practice it once and would be exhausted to death. Compared to now, Han Fei felt that they were really lucky. Luo Xiaobai said with a serious face, Xingyu, Su Sanqian, test paper. As he spoke, 2 vines had already stretched out in front of them. The 2 of them quickly stopped and took out their test papers. Hence, Han Fei and the others gathered together and began to comment. Lu Renkuang took a look. They're all full. Zhang Xuanyu commented, it's a little different from what I expected. Han Fei said, it's also a little different from what I expected. In Han Fei's opinion, Su Sanqian had been suppressed for a long time and knew the fickleness of human nature. Therefore, his emotions were inevitably a little indifferent. As for Xingyu, he lived in a normal family. Therefore, his personality should be more conservative. However, from the results of the answers, Su Sanqian seemed to be more willing to help others. Xingyu, on the other hand, was awesome. This kid was actually a little similar to Han Fei and the others. He actually liked to rob. Everyone looked at Han Fei. Both of you are spirit gatherers, both of you are soul warriors, and both of you like to rob. This kid is good. Li Luoluo didn't care about this. After Zhou Yinling finished reading, she said indifferently, I think Sanqian is quite good. Han Fei, Zhang Xuanyu, and Lu Renkuang chuckled at the same time. Luo Xiaobai said, Xingyu, you will be the captain of this team in the future. You need to cultivate your sense of command. Su Sanqian, you are a manipulator. You can't be impulsive at critical moments. You need to listen to orders. Su Sanqian nodded hard. Yes, senior sister. Xingyu was a little surprised. He had secretly compared answers with Su Sanqian. Originally, he felt a little embarrassed and felt that he definitely couldn't compare to Su Sanqian. But why was he the captain? Zhou Yinling didn't understand, but Han Fei gave her a look, indicating that he would talk about it later. Han Fei said, from now on, everyone will cultivate the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies once and then come to the back mountain. With that said, Han Fei kicked the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. Watch. Whoever slacks off, beat them up. On the back mountain. Seeing Zhou Yinling's puzzled expression, Han Fei immediately said, You stayed in the Heavenly Water Village before, so you must have gone to the ordinary fishery. Have you seen the competition for resources between the villages? Zhou Yinling nodded. Yes, it's a little cruel. Han Fei sneered. The ocean is just that cruel. Except for the 1,000-star city, the 36 towns and all the villages teach this. On the path of cultivation, benevolence is the most dangerous. From the beginning, you were fighting with sea creatures, but you shouldn't have fought many humans. Therefore, you don't know how sinister the human heart is. Han Fei said leisurely, with Su Sanqian's personality, don't let the Su family ruin him. That won't be good. I'll leave it to you. Zhang Xuanyu was stunned. Me again? Han Fei patted his shoulder and said, communication has always been your forte. At this moment, Lu Renkuang had already started cooking. He interrupted and said, should we groom the next generation of chefs? Han Fei's expression turned serious. That makes sense. Who do you think is the most suitable? Gu Qi. Is there a need to ask? Han Fei grinned. I'll listen to you. Han Fei and the others were talking nonsense. Zhou Yinling was thinking about what Han Fei had just said when she saw a short man running towards the back mountain. Luo Xiaobai exclaimed in surprise and looked at Han Fei. Less than an hour. Han Fei was also a little surprised. Is Su Daji the kind of person who is born to temper her body? This speed is amazing. Chapter 10:19. Han Fei had already noticed that Su Daiji was different. After all, in such a strange world, there might be many heavenly talents with seemingly low-level spiritual heritages like Su Daiji. They might be mediocre all their lives, but once they passed that period, it would be very difficult for them to rise again. Su Daiji was lucky that she met Han Fei and the others before her talent was revealed. At this moment, the girl held the magic cube in one hand and looked at Han Fei. Just when she was about to play with the magic cube, Han Fei stopped her. Han Fei said, Daji, don't finish it. I'll awaken it for you. Su Daiji blinked her eyes, then put away the Rubik's cube, looking eager to try. Although she didn't like to talk, it didn't mean that she didn't know anything. She had been envious of the spiritual awakening for a long time. Luo Xiaobai pointed her finger, and a giant vine broke out of the ground and dug a small pool more than 2 meters deep on the ground. Han Fei stretched out his hand and grabbed a large section of the water in the small river in the college and poured it directly into the pool. Han Fei said, Daji, go in and sit at the bottom of the pool. Don't come out. After Su Daiji jumped into the pool, Han Fei said, how much spirit awakening fluid does it take to awaken the spiritual awakening fluid? The few of them looked at each other. None of them knew. Suddenly, the elusive Ku Shui appeared. He said, under normal circumstances, 1,000 kilograms is enough for 1,000 people. But those with good talent can absorb more. For heavenly talents, at least 10 kilograms is enough. Han Fei asked, what will happen if I put more? Ku Shui hesitated for a moment and said, it shouldn't be a big problem. It won't have any negative effect on the body. Han Fei grinned. Then put 100 kilograms first. If it's not enough, I'll put more. Ku Shui staggered slightly and thought to himself, forget it, pretend I didn't say anything. Han Fei reached out and threw a large mass of spirit awakening fluid into the pool. All of a sudden, the water in the pond turned dark green. At this time, Han Fei and the others naturally couldn't help and could only wait by the side. Even Lu Renkuang, who was cooking, stopped, for fear of disturbing Su Daiji. 100 minutes. 1 incense stick's worth of time. Han Fei couldn't help but frown. How can she stay in the water for so long? Zhou Yinling said, Daji's endurance is very good. Li Luoluo said, I remember that I seemed to have persisted for more than half an hour. Han Fei remembered that he seemed to have persisted for a long time. However, unlike him, Su Daiji didn't absorb much of the spirit awakening fluid, and the color seemed to be only a little lighter. After another half an hour, Li Luoluo shouted, look, the color is fading. Before Li Luoluo said anything, they had already seen it. The color was fading, but the speed at which it was fading was too fast. In just 10 seconds, more than half of the spirit awakening fluid had been consumed, and the dark green had turned into light green. Han Fei's eyes widened. What's going on? She had absorbed so much spirit awakening fluid all by herself. Luo Xiaobai explained, it's slowed down. It absorbed more than half of the spirit awakening fluid at that moment. Now, it has stabilized. As Luo Xiaobai said, in the next 10 minutes, Su Daiji's body emitted some yellow light. It looked like the light measured by the spiritual heritage testing stone. The color of the light happened to correspond to the yellow of a level 3 high-quality spiritual heritage. Luo Xiaobai suddenly let out a sigh of relief and said, it's not that the spiritual heritage testing stone didn't measure it, but that Daji's spiritual heritage is originally this color. Then, in the dark yellow light, a pincer stretched out. Lu Rinquang wondered, lobster. Wait, there is a tuft of yellow-green fluff on the pincer. But then a flat head popped out. Everyone realized that it was a scorpion. The scorpion seemed to break free from some shackles and crawled out with all its might. On the scorpion's feet, there were circles of black circles, and there was a tuft of yellow-green fluff on its head and tail. In Han Fei's eyes, information emerged. Name: Sand King, Su Daiji's spiritual beast. Introduction: an ancient ferocious beast that inherits the bloodline of sand. It can freely control sand and stones and dig the ground extremely fast. It is covered with sand armor and has an extremely strong defense. The Sand King is proud and aloof. When fighting, it can use the power of the earth and is suitable for underwater or ground combat. Level 1 quality: a legendary. It contains spiritual energy greater than 500 points. Food: insects, fish, sand, and stones. Remarks: when he saw this information, Han Fei couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. I've found a treasure. Sand King. Look, the name sounds domineering enough. It's a legendary creature. Although it seems to be a little inferior to Little Black and Little White, it's definitely high enough. Chao Qiu's bloodline of the god of war is good enough, right? Isn't it also a legendary creature? Legend and him had nothing to do with each other. In Han Fei's knowledge, except for Tang Ji's white dragon feather lobster, among all the people he knew, the one with the highest spiritual beast was a legendary one. Even Lu Rinquang's deep blue roar was obtained later. Besides, Lu Rinquang rarely used the deep blue roar, which should be a reason. Now, Su Daiji's spiritual beast was a legendary one. It could almost be said that her talent was probably comparable to that of Chao Qiu and the others. After all, Su Daiji also had a spiritual heritage that could grow. Even if her bloodline was not awakened, it was already commendable. Bam! Su Daiji suddenly opened her eyes and popped out of the water. When she saw a small yellow-green scorpion, she immediately puffed up her mouth, looking very disgusted. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Why are you still disgusted? You've already won at the starting line, okay? Some people were born at the starting line, and some people were born at the finishing line. In Han Fei's opinion, Su Daiji was born at the finishing line. Before Han Fei could think of what to say, he heard Luo Xiaobai take a breath and say, I seem to have seen this creature before. Everyone looked over. Su Daiji also looked over. Luo Xiaobai looked at Ku Shui and said, Grandpa Ku, is this? Ku Shui nodded with a serious expression. Yes, it should be. Oh. What are you talking about? What's the difference between spiritual beasts? Li Luoluo couldn't wait any longer and was a little impatient. Zhang Xuanyu also said, is it very advanced? Luo Xiaobai stared at Sand King and said, I've read about it in ancient books. If I'm not mistaken, this is an ancient ferocious beast, a legendary creature, Sand King. Han Fei raised his eyelids and deliberately asked, what kind of creature is Sand King? Luo Xiaobai said, it's recorded in ancient books. In ancient times, ferocious beasts ran rampant. At that time, there was a world of sand, not the so-called Sea of Sand. It was the real Sea of Sand in the early days. There lived a group of terrifying creatures with earth-shattering divine power. They were the Sand Kings. Zhang Xuanyu took a breath. So, this little thing also has earth-shattering divine power? Luo Xiaobai said, if I'm not wrong, someone in the Su family should have had a spiritual beast like Sand King. Otherwise, there's no reason why Daji could directly awaken as a Sand King. Ku Shui added, indeed, it might be due to the attraction of bloodline. In that case, it's very likely that Miss Daji has an unknown bloodline flowing in her body. Han Fei couldn't help but touch his chin. No wonder Su Daiji was more solitary and didn't like to talk much. Could it be because of this bloodline? Su Daiji suddenly grinned and pointed at Sand King. Sand, let's go. Perhaps because Su Daiji's speech wasn't very clear, she seemed to have become a fool after shouting. She slipped into the maze. Su Sanqian and the others were sweating profusely, and their bodies had already spasmed several times. However, they didn't dare to relax because the nine-tailed mantis shrimp was crawling from east to west and from south to north. If they slacked off, they would be chained up. It was really painful. Just as the few of them were clenching their teeth and preparing to endure the pain, they saw Su Daiji running towards them. Beside her, there was also a little scorpion that was running with her in a flurry. From time to time, it would fall to the ground and roll twice due to inertia. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp turned around, and when it saw Sand King, its eyes narrowed. Little Sand King was so frightened that it wanted to crawl underground. No matter what, Sand King was still a noob. Even if it was at the same level as the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, a legend would have to kneel in front of a legend. Without waiting for the Sand King to burrow into the ground, Su Daiji grabbed her tail and lifted her up. Su Daiji looked at the nine-tailed mantis shrimp angrily. Don't scare Sand. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp's eyes were tilted. This little thing can't even compare to one of its claws. I scare it? Do I have to? Guqi said in surprise, Daji, did you awaken your spirit? Smack. Just as Guqi finished speaking, a chain whipped down and slapped her to the ground. She hurriedly got up in fright and continued what she had been doing. Yi Xian was curious, but Xingyu didn't think much of it. It was just a scorpion. Su Sanqian frowned as if he had thought of something, but he wasn't sure. He saw Su Daiji spinning the cube as she strolled in front of the four of them. She did it again and again, leaving them speechless. Xingyu couldn't help but say, Daiji, can you stop strolling? You're affecting our cultivation. Smack. Xingyu was slapped to the ground by a chain. Su Daiji was showing off. Seeing that Yi Xian's face was starting to darken, she huffed and puffed as she went to the back mountain. With the appearance of Su Daiji's spiritual beast, the team was finally complete. The positions of the soul warriors had been decided. Perhaps this would be another legendary combination in the future. Chapter 1020. More than 2 months passed in a flash. Han Fei and the others had already reached the peak of the law enforcers after more than a year of training on the Scattered Stars Island. At this moment, he was teaching his students to study some new combat skills. In these short 2 months, Xingyu and the other 4 had been tortured to the point of hovering between life and death. This included Yi Xian, who was the most talented of them all. She was clamoring for a husband every day, but she ended up getting beaten up every day. And the nine-tailed mantis shrimp had become the exclusive instructor of these troublemakers. In order to please the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, Yi Xian tricked Su Sanqian and the others into catching fish and prawns for the nine-tailed mantis shrimp every day. In the end, it was useless. Because they were too free, almost everyone would bring the 5 junior brothers and sisters over and train them for a while when they were bored. For example, Luo Xiaobai liked to whip people with vines, and Zhang Xuanyu liked to knock people. For example, Lu Renkuang liked to stand still and let them attack him. For example, Li Luoluo liked to play tricks on them with bugs. Once, for some reason, Li Luoluo turned into Li Kiki and asked to play with Su Daiji and the others. This scared the hell out of the 5 of them. Until now, they all thought that Li Luoluo was deliberately teasing them that day. On the other hand, Zhou Yinling had become the favorite teacher of the 5 of them. Because Zhou Ling didn't hit them, she gave them pointers seriously every time. Sometimes, when he saw that they were really tired, he would sneakily let them rest. Every time, Han Fei would come and end their beautiful rest time. As a result, Han Fei became the #1 devil in the hearts of the 5 of them. On this day, night fell, and the stars were dim. After the meal, Su Sanqian and the others were sparring and training together. Zhang Xuanyu was the instructor, Lu Renquang guided from the side, and Li Luolua watched from the sidelines. Back Mountain. Han Fei snuck to the top of the mountain with the cylindrical tubes in his arms. Zhou Ling's attention was on Han Fei all the time, including when she was eating, except when she was paying attention to the students in class. Therefore, she immediately knew that Han Fei had slipped to the back mountain. Thus, he quietly followed them. As for Luo Xiaobai, she just found it strange. She didn't notice Han Fei, but she noticed Zhou Ling. She narrowed her eyes, wondering if Han Fei had fallen in love with Zhou Ling. Thus, he hid in the bushes and followed them. Because the school had always been peaceful, there was no reason for Han Fei to sense his surroundings all the time. Therefore, he did not notice the 2 of them following him. After a while, Han Fei stood at the top of the mountain. He was smiling as he hugged his can of fireworks. This gift was definitely a pleasant surprise. When Tang Ge got married, everyone was shocked. At this moment, Han Fei was thinking, I have to release my perception. Otherwise, what if this secret was known by others? However, after he released it, he discovered that Zhou Ling was hiding more than 30 kilometers away. When he looked again, he found that Luo Xiaobai's head was sticking out of a tree hole, which almost scared him to death. Except for the 2 of them, Han Fei didn't feel anything different. It was more than 500 miles from the back of the mountain to the plantation. He couldn't see any further. Fortunately, he didn't notice anyone within this range. In the mountains, he sensed 2 people. However, when he scanned them with his perception, the 2 of them slipped away. Han Fei didn't care. They were so far away that they probably couldn't see what he was doing. Han Fei said angrily, You 2, if you want to come, hurry up. Little 9, you've changed. You're even secretly following people. And Xiaobai, just stick your head out. Are you trying to scare us? Hearing that Han Fei was talking to them via voice transmission, the 2 of them sweated. Why did this guy release his perception in his own territory? After a while, the 2 of them arrived. Zhou Ling blushed, and Luo Xiaobai asked directly, Han Fei, what are you doing sneaking around? Han Fei grinned and said, I didn't want to tell you. Since you've all followed me, I'll show you and let you witness my great invention. Zhou Ling immediately perked up. Great invention? Did Han Fei come up with something shocking? But Luo Xiaobai was different. She knew Han Fei too well. If it was really great, Han Fei would have told them long ago. He wouldn't have hidden it, so she was sure that it couldn't be anything good. Han Fei put the cylinder on the ground. Here. Isn't Tang Ge going to get married? I'm preparing a gift for him. I wanted to give him a surprise on the day of his wedding. Since you've all followed me, forget it. I'll show it to you together. Luo Xiaobai wondered, is this a divine weapon? Or is it a very powerful divine weapon? Zhou Ling sniffed. I smell something weird. Han Fei was not curious. Don't panic. Let me try it first. Han Fei pointed at the air, and the fuse of the firework ignited. Buzz. Buzz, swish suddenly, a flame soared into the sky and soared more than 300 meters into the sky. When the firework exploded in the silent night sky, it bloomed with colorful beauty. The magnificence before the destruction made people forget the silence of the night. The petals were like jade, like a beautiful shadow, and Luo Xiaobai and Zhou Ling were stunned. The 2 of them raised their heads and widened their eyes. What kind of fairy is this? Why is it so beautiful? Clap, clap in the blooming fireworks, an array suddenly condensed. As soon as the array was unfolded, the words, ha ha ha, appeared in the air. Oh yeah, success. Han Fei raised his fist heavily. His purpose tonight was to see if there was any problem with the array he set up in the fireworks. If it weren't for this, he wouldn't have come to set off the fireworks tonight. Luo Xiaobai said angrily, Han Fei. Luo Xiaobai was furious. You wrote 3 words on such a beautiful scene. Isn't this a bit too much? Ha ha ha. Ha, you iron-head fish. Zhou Ling crossed her arms in front of her chest and murmured after a long time, it's indeed a great invention. It's so beautiful. I want to see more. However, the fireworks in this small cylinder had been set off. Han Fei couldn't help but say, don't worry. I just made one to see its effect. Let's see it on the day of Tang Jiyi's wedding. It seems to be 3 days later. This morning, someone from the Heavenly Sword sect came to deliver an invitation. Luo Xiaobai came back to herself from the beauty of the fireworks. Shall we all go? Han Fei nodded. All of us. I don't think it's very simple. When old Han said that he was going to propose marriage to Tang Gu, Han Fei had suspected old Han's intentions. Old Han was a scheming person. Why did he adopt Tang Gu? Tang Gu was so talented. Why did he let him grow up? Not only did he let him grow up, but he also engaged Tang Gu the moment they met, and the betrothal gifts were so expensive. It was more like a powerful alliance. If Han Fei didn't know that old Han was scheming, he wouldn't have cared. But Han Fei knew, so he had to wonder if old Han had known that Tang Gu would go to the Heavenly Sword sect. Although, theoretically speaking, this seemed unlikely. However, he had been schemed against. It wasn't that old Han was bad. Maybe everything he did was for the good of him and Tang Gu. However, people would always suspect his real purpose. If old Han really wanted Tang Gu to live a good life for the rest of his life, then there was no scheming at all. If old Han was scheming against him, then Tang Jiyi's wedding might be related to something else. In any case, he had to go. If he went alone, he would represent old Han. Therefore, it wasn't a problem for him to go. However, the invitation letter said that he hoped that the Thug Academy would go, which was worth mentioning. If the Heavenly Sword sect just wanted to show their relationship with old Han, they wouldn't bring the Thug Academy. Since they had brought it, there might be something else. 3 days later. Early in the morning, Han Fei came out with a pile of fancy clothes. Li Luoluo rubbed her eyes and said, Han Fei, what are you doing? Luo Renquang was humming a tune and fried dumplings. Seeing Han Fei holding a pile of clothes, his eyelids twitched. Fei Fei. What are you doing? Su Sanqian and the others also looked at Han Fei. They always felt that senior brother Han Fei was sometimes neurotic and liked to prank people. They didn't know what he was up to. Luo Xiaobai said, I want the aqua blue one. Luo Xiaobai used to like wearing white. But with Zhou Ling around, she didn't like to wear white like Zhou Ling. In fact, she had to help Xia Shaochang guard against her. Therefore, she chose a long aqua blue dress. This set also had a waistcoat, which looked quite exquisite. Han Fei handed it over casually and said, okay. It's still the same style as before. You have good taste. I thought you wanted white. Zhou Ling was puzzled. You know how to make clothes? The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up. Humph, I don't even know how to make clothes. How can I be a refiner? These are all semi-divine clothes. Each person is limited to one set. Ah! There were 2 cries, one from Li Luoluo and the other from Yi Shiyan. Li Luoluo asked, what about mine? Han Fei glanced at her. This fancy one is yours. Han Fei pulled out a long dress with at least 7 or 8 colors and water grass patterns and threw it to Li Luoluo. This was the famous pop style, and it was the only dress that Han Fei felt was suitable for Li Luoluo. Before Li Luoluo could speak, Yi Shiyan jumped over. Senior brother, I want mine too. Han Fei casually threw an ordinary JK over and said indifferently, the 5 of you are all mortal level. If you want good clothes, wait until you're stronger. Yi Xian let out a long sigh and ran to Zhang Xuanyu with the clothes in disappointment. Darling, help me put them on. Pooh. Zhang Xuanyu said, shut up and call me senior brother. Especially outside, you have to call me senior brother. Chapter 1021. In the beginning, the Heavenly Sword sect pursued the pinnacle of the Sword Tao. They intended to transform all things into swords and create the great Tao of sword cultivators. Because of this pursuit, the Heavenly Sword sect had always upheld the Sword Tao. But as time passed, the powerhouses of the Heavenly Sword sect discovered that the path of sword cultivation was still too narrow. If he wanted to carry it forward, just cultivating the sword might not be enough. As a result, the Heavenly Sword sect had many more cultivation paths. The Heavenly Halberd technique was one of them, and it was what Tang Ge had learned. Due to the conflict between the Heavenly Halberd and Heavenly Sword, the Heavenly Sword sect's experts felt that all spells were inferior to swords. Hence, they named the Heavenly Halberd art the Battle Halberd art. However, the Heaven Sword sect had another rule: you could cultivate other arts, but sword arts had to be a basic skill. Therefore, apart from the Heavenly Halberd technique, Tang Ge was also good at using swords. However, the Heaven's Sword sect also said that in order to enter the Heaven's Sword Great Tao, one had to find their own sword. If he couldn't comprehend the strongest sword that suited him, it would be best if he didn't learn the Heavenly Sword art. Obviously, Tang Ge didn't fully comprehend it either, so he couldn't enter the Heavenly Sword Great Path. However, no matter whether he could enter the Heavenly Sword Grand Tao or not, Tang Jiyi's halberd skills were quite good. With the help of the White Dragon Feather Prawn, there were few in the same realm who could match him. Even those disciples who had comprehended their own path of swordsmanship had little chance of winning against Tang Jiyi's halberd arts. Would Mu Tianfang not know this? Of course he knew, but Tang Jiyi's talent was too monstrous, and he had to be taken in as a disciple. One day, when he comprehended his own path of the sword, he would be able to sweep away all the other geniuses and become a true peerless genius. On this day, Tang Ge and Mu Ling were getting married. As the leader of the 7 major sects, the Heavenly Sword sect naturally sent invitations and invited all the dignitaries in the city to attend the ceremony. When they arrived, the Heavenly Sword Mountain where the Heavenly Sword sect was located was decorated with lanterns and fishing boats were flying all over the sky. It wasn't that the place where the Sky Sword sect was located was called the Sky Sword Mountain. Rather, the entire island was called the Sky Sword Mountain. Because the Heavenly Sword sect's foundation was too deep, everyone liked to call them by this name. The Sky Sword sect was located in the middle of a mountain range. All the mountains here belonged to the Heavenly Sword sect. The palaces and sword pavilions were all on it. The location of the wedding was on the martial arts practice grounds not far from the entrance of the Heavenly Sword sect. Because it was a distinguished gathering, not everyone could enter the Sky Sword sect's mountain gate. Only famous figures in the Thousand-Star City would have the opportunity to come. Of course, this was only in relative terms. There were more than 1,000 families in the Thousand-Star City, including the Su family on the Pure Sun Island. The person who attended was the head of the Su family, Su Yang. Su Yang actually didn't want to come because the Thug Academy had offended too many people. Although the Su family supported the Thug Academy on the surface, that was on Pure Sun Island. Even if others knew about it, they would not go to the Pure Sun Island to find trouble with them. However, things were different here. If someone were to pick a fight, should he stand up for them or not? The reason why Su Yang came was because he knew that Han Fei's ability was not weaker than his. Therefore, in theory, even if something happened, he didn't have to do anything. But if someone wanted the Su family to take a stand, Su Yang shook his head. We've already come this far. We have to go all out. Besides, who would stir up trouble here? After all, this was a joyous occasion for the Heavenly Sword sect. Those aristocratic families wouldn't be so insensible, right? Han Fei and the others were not with Su Yang. As a group of young people of the new era, the members of the Thug Academy who appeared in strange clothes naturally attracted the attention of many people. Although most people didn't know Han Fei and the others, they could guess who they were from their entourage. Those who couldn't guess were drooling when they saw Luo Xiaobai, Zhou Yinling, and Li Luoluo. In particular, Han Fei's ultra-high level of clothing design attracted the attention of countless women. Someone took the lead and flew over on a fishing boat, directly ignoring Han Fei and the others. Although he was dazzled by Zhang Xuanyu's handsome face, he immediately approached Luo Xiaobai and the others. "Miss, I'm a direct descendant of the Qian family on the Gold Money Island. Shall we get to know each other?" "Get lost." Luo Xiaobai's eyes turned cold and she drove him away. However, as a descendant of a big family, this kind of situation seemed to happen often. The person didn't care. Since he could come here, he must have some status. Besides, as a man, how could he stoop to the same level as a woman? The person changed the topic. "Miss, actually, I'm talking to this girl." The person looked at Zhou Yinling, thinking, they're both beauties. However, Zhou Yinling clenched her fist. "Seal." In the next moment, the young master of the Qian family paused and fell from the sky together with his boat. Zhang Xuanyu looked back and smiled. Domineering. The young master of the Qian family's eyes turned cold. He was actually tricked by these two women. However, thinking that the other party was actually a law enforcer, he couldn't help but touch his nose. It was better not to mess with such a young law enforcer. The young master of the Qian family had just fallen from the sky. He saw another boat flying over. However, this fishing boat was very dazzling, with all kinds of gems piled up on it. Under the sunlight, it was particularly dazzling. A young man in yellow stood on the bow of the fishing boat, and a law enforcer controlled the boat for him. With his hands behind his back, the man came to Han Fei and the others and said leisurely, "Zhou Yinling, Luo Xiaobai, long time no see." Luo Xiaobai said, "I don't know you." Zhou Yinling pursed her lips. "Not familiar." The corners of the man's mouth curled up. "Really?" The Zhou family owes the Zhang family some resources. At this time, Han Fei said again, "The Zhang family? Zhang Wenkuan is from your family?" The young man looked at Han Fei and said with a faint smile, "Yes, you are Han Fei?" Han Fei asked, "Who are you?" "Me? Zhang Mingkuan, Zhang Wenzheng is my brother, my biological brother." Han Fei sneered. "What? Do you want revenge? I've already beaten a guy named Mingkuan. I don't mind beating another one." Zhang Mingkuan smiled faintly. "The Zhang family owes you a favor. Why don't you use this favor to help the Zhou family pay off their debt? After all, you sent Xiao Qiao back." Han Fei said disdainfully, "How much is your family's debt worth? Is it enough for me to owe you a favor?" Zhang Mingkuan curled his lips. "Almost, equivalent to an ultra-quality divine weapon." Han Fei was speechless. How poor was the Zhou Yinling family? But on the surface, Han Fei said calmly, "It's just an ultra-quality divine weapon. Is it enough for me to owe you a favor?" Zhang Mingkuan smiled and said, "Why don't you give me one?" Han Fei rolled his eyes at him. "This is a favor from a king. How can an ultra-quality divine weapon be enough? At least, you have to give me two." Zhang Mingkuan's eyes lit up. "Okay. Then I'll give you one." Han Fei curled his lips. "No. The one the Zhang family owes me, I'll go and get it myself in the future." Zhang Mingkuan smiled slightly. "Anytime." In Zhang Mingkuan's opinion, he had plenty of money. He wasn't the richest family in the thousand-star city for nothing. And he couldn't owe Han Fei a favor. Two ultra-quality divine weapons seemed frighteningly extravagant, but that was only in the eyes of outsiders. In Zhang Mingkuan's opinion, how could a venerable not be worth two ultra-quality divine weapons? Zhou Yinling hurriedly said, "Han Fei, I can do it myself." Zhou Yinling's voice became softer and softer, and her face was already red. She couldn't afford an ultra-quality divine weapon. Han Fei finally knew how poor the Zhou Yinling family was. In the past, they couldn't even afford 100,000 caddies of spiritual spring. Who knew that they still owed a debt? Luo Xiaobai said to Ku Shui, later, inform the Jiuyin family that their debt has been paid off. The Thug Academy has repaid their debt. To Han Fei, saving people was just a matter of convenience, but it was different for other families. Luo Xiaobai deliberately asked Ku Shui to tell the Jiuyin family, but she had other intentions. She specifically said that it was the Thug Academy, not Han Fei. This was to disregard Han Fei's direct relationship. Ku Shui smiled and nodded. Yes, Mississippi. Jiuyin Ling was pinching her fingers when she heard Zhang Mingkuan say, out of kindness, let me remind you that the Thug Academy can't go through the motions this time. If you go back now, it might not be too late. Han Fei sneered. Don't bother. After Han Fei and the others left, the old man on Zhang Mingkuan's fishing boat said, Young master, do you really want to use 2 ultra-quality divine weapons to return Han Fei a favor? Zhang Mingkuan curled his lips and smiled. 2 ultra-quality divine weapons. I've already repaid the favor. Huh? Zhang Mingkuan said indifferently, what the Jiuyin family owes is resources, not real ultra-quality divine weapons. It seems to be equal, but in fact, it's not. This little bit of resources is dispensable to the Zhang family. So what if she returns it? As for Han Fei, do you think he will really go to the Zhang family? Don't forget how he robbed Zhang Wen in the past. There is a saying that goes, creating something out of nothing, but it doesn't have to be done. Young master is wise. Zhang Mingkuan smiled faintly. Let's go. Let's go and watch the fun. I didn't lie to them. This is not easy. On the other side, Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. Are you really going to the Zhang family to collect the debt? Han Fei nodded affirmatively. Yes, but not now. Chapter 1022. Obviously, in the Thousand-Star City, Zhang Mingkuan was a famous figure. Therefore, when he came into contact with the Thug Academy, many senses swept over him at that time. Humph. Han Fei's perception shook and directly crushed those perceptions. This was the benefit of having strong spiritual power. As his strength grew, his sensitivity to perception became stronger and stronger. After Han Fei shattered those perceptions, someone couldn't help but laugh. Are they from the Thug Academy? Someone laughed. I heard that they don't even have an explorer. Only a few students came to rebuild the academy. Thug Academy, how ambitious are they? Someone shook his head. How can the big families tolerate them? It's amazing. In the crowd, acquaintances appeared. Mo Fian and Yang Diyu were together. Mo Fian asked, do you believe Sun Mu was killed by Chao Qiu? Yang Diyu shook his head. Chao Qiu always says he wants to kill people, but in fact, he has never killed a person. Although the bloodline of the god of war has been awakened and he has changed, I think his nature is hard to change. Most likely, it was Han Fei who killed him. Mo Fian couldn't help saying, hey. What's the difference between Chao Qiu's bloodline of the god of war and your will of the god of war? Yang Diyu's face darkened. Of course there's a difference. That's an authentic bloodline. It's just a secret method. It can't be compared with. Mo Fian sneered. In any case, the Thug Academy is in an awkward situation now. They refuse to cooperate with the sections. And they insist on returning to the Thousand-Star City. How can there be such a good thing in the world? Yang Diyu sneered and suddenly said, hey. I heard that some people from the 3 Holy Lands came back. Mo Fian nodded a little irritably. Forget it. I have to admit that Han Fei and his team are indeed strong. Our family has to call people back from there in case of emergency. At the gate of the Heavenly Sword sect, Han Fei and the others landed. Here, a crowd gathered. Except for the students of the Heavenly Sword sect, basically no one below the hidden fisher level appeared. They were all hidden fishers, and there were even many law enforcers passing by. Zhang Xuanyu said in surprise, there are so many strong people in the Thousand-Star City. Luo Xiaobai said, of course. After all, the Thousand-Star City is so big. However, more or less, all of them have been to the unknown place. While they were discussing, someone passed by. When he saw Su Daiji and the others following behind them, he could not help but frown and say, where did these children come from? Why did you bring these children to such a grand event? Zhang Xuanyu turned around and said, did you eat your yellow croaker? What does it have to do with you? The man glanced at Zhang Xuanyu and snorted. You're just a peak-level hidden fisher. You're quite arrogant. Zhang Xuanyu sneered. As if you're very strong. Go away, don't be a busybody. That person's face turned cold as he thought to himself, if it were another place, I would have already taught you a lesson. Xing Yu and the others were also very nervous. Gu Qi followed behind Han Fei. Everyone here was an expert. Any one of them would be able to exterminate them with a single breath. Han Fei didn't care about such a trifle. He had brought Gu Qi and the rest here to let them see the powerhouses in this world. This gave them a better understanding of the Thug Academy's status in the Thousand-Star City. At the gate of the Heavenly Sword sect, someone was checking the invitations. Just as Han Fei and the others were about to walk up, they suddenly heard someone wondering, is this someone from the Yi family? Perhaps it was Yi Xian's JK uniform that attracted others' attention. After all, showing her thighs would always attract some attention. Even though Yi Xian was still young, it was undeniable that her looks were very useful. Otherwise, Han Fei wouldn't have been almost seduced by Xia Shaochan at first sight. Who is it? The Yi family? As soon as that person said this, everyone looked at Yi Xian, and Yi Xian was so scared that she directly grabbed Zhang Xuanyu's hand and said, Senior brother, you have to protect me. Zhang Xuanyu's face was ugly. So be it. Yi Xian's identity was special and she couldn't be harassed by outsiders. Ha ha ha. Sure enough, she's from the Yi family. I can smell the special fragrance emanating from her body. Han Fei and the others frowned. Fragrance? Wasn't it normal for girls to have a nice smell on them? Someone exclaimed, oh my god, there's a Yi family in the Thousand-Star City. In an instant, a group of people surrounded them from all directions. Luo Xiaobai shouted, get out of the way. Someone sneered. Hey! Where did you guys come from? Where does this little girl from the Yi family come from? Someone blocked the way. Guys, I'm not hostile. However, our Wang family is talented enough to be Miss Yi's opponent. Little girl, what do you think? Zhang Xuanyu shouted, fuck off. I don't care which family you are from. You'd better get out of the way. Someone sneered. Wang Feng, you're just a nobody. Do you think your Wang family can take over the Yi family? Get out of the way. The next moment, Han Fei saw Li Hai, Li Baizhou, and another young man appear. The young man's eyes flickered, glanced at Han Fei and the others, and said to the Li brothers, are they from the Thug Academy? Wow! Around them, some people who didn't know Han Fei and the others all gasped. The Thug Academy? Immediately, most of the crowd dispersed. What a joke, they had some family background. However, they had heard about the Thug Academy more than once or twice. Recently, on the Pure Sun Island, the return of the Thug Academy had been known by many people. This academy was famous for its ruthlessness and domineeringness. If you didn't have enough power, don't mess with them. Li Hai said, yes. Han Fei, long time no see. Han Fei curled his lips and said, what? Do you two want to see me? Li Baizhou grinned and said, the Thug Academy has always been in the teeth of the storm. Now, you dare to take in the Yi family? You're really brave. Han Fei smiled. Why? Could it be that someone is coming to the Thug Academy to kidnap him? And the young man in front of the Li brothers snorted. If this little girl from the Yi family marries into our Li family, the Li family will no longer participate in any affairs of the Thug Academy. Yi Xian was so nervous that her palms were sweating. She didn't expect that she would be recognized so easily. She had heard of the Li family. However, she didn't want to be robbed. Before Han Fei spoke, Zhang Xuanyu laughed and said, "Do you think you're shameless? Or are you more handsome than me? I'll only tell you once. She is a student of the Thug Academy." The young man's eyes were cold. "Do you really think, with just the few of you, you can support the Thug Academy?" With that said, the young man looked at Han Fei. "Remember, my name is Li Xian. I heard that you are very strong. I really want to experience it." Han Fei said contemptuously, "I'm waiting for a life and death battle. If you don't dare to fight, get out of here." Just when Han Fei and the others were confronting Li Xian and the others, someone from the Heavenly Sword sect finally came. It was a disciple who came to check the invitation at the gate of the Heavenly Sword sect. The disciple frowned and said, "Guys, don't make trouble in my Heavenly Sword sect." After that, the disciple looked at Yi Xian and the others and asked in confusion, "Why did you bring a child here?" Han Fei handed out the invitation casually and said, "The invitation is for everyone from the Thug Academy." The disciple was stunned. "People from the Thug Academy? I heard that Han Fei and Tang Gu are brothers." The disciple couldn't help but look at Han Fei. "Are you Han Fei?" Han Fei nodded. The disciple looked at the people from the Li family and said, "They are guests of the Heavenly Sword sect." Li Xian snorted softly and turned to leave. At this time, Mo Fian and Yang Diyu passed by Han Fei and the others, and Mo Fian said leisurely, "Don't you know how special the Yi family is? This is not a small problem." Han Fei curled his lips. "Next time you make sarcastic remarks, think about yourself first. If it weren't for the protection of the array, you would have been dead now." Mo Fian's face was ugly, she snorted heavily, and walked straight to the gate of the Heavenly Sword sect. Li Luoluo couldn't help but say, "Han Fei, have you offended all the families that you can't afford to offend?" Han Fei smiled. "Are you afraid?" Li Luoluo curled her lips. "Humph. Why should I be afraid?" The disciple of the Heavenly Sword sect said, "Please come in." With that said, he hesitated and said in a low voice, "Guys, you'd better stand in the square formation of the 7 major sections. This time, a lot of people from the big clans have come." Inside the gate of the Heavenly Sword sect, it was a huge sword practice field. It seemed to be to show the style of the Heavenly Sword sect. At this moment, thousands of flying swords rotated in the air and formed a huge circular sword array. Luo Xiaobai said, "It's the Heavenly Sword Array. It's said that it can unleash a torrent of sword Dao. The hidden Fisher-level Heavenly Sword Array can kill peak-level law enforcers." Lu Renquang said in surprise, Doesn't that mean that even my ultimate defense technique can't block it?" Han Fei was also surprised. "What about the law enforcer Heavenly Sword Array?" Zhou Yinling said, "There aren't that many law enforcers." Han Fei heaved a sigh of relief. "You scared me. I knew it. If it's that strong, wouldn't it be able to kill explorers? The Grand Void Academy's Grand Void Sword Array isn't weaker than this." Everyone turned around and saw that Chu Sun from the Imperial College had arrived behind them at some point. Su Sanqian hurriedly took 2 steps back. He could feel the sharp sword intent from this person. Chu Sun looked at Su Sanqian in surprise. "He can actually sense my sword intent? This kid is quite sharp."